In my past life, because I weighed 50 grams more than my twin sister, my father dripped scalding hot wax onto my collarbone. He gently wiped away my tears, his gaze like that of someone admiring a flawed piece of porcelain. "Grace, bear with it," he said. "Once this layer is added, you'll be perfect. To become the perfect daughter my father loved most, I endured 18 years of starvation, plastic surgery, and waist cinching. In the end, on that stormy, thunderous night, because I had stolen a bite of a cookie, he sighed in disappointment and pushed me onto the operating table. A defective product, it can only be scrapped and remade. The icy sensation of the scalpel slicing through my skin was my final memory before death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the year I was 7. On the dining table were 2 breakfasts. One was an exquisite lettuce salad with dew. The other was greasy braised pork belly with leftover rice. Dad smiled and asked, "Who wants to be Daddy's little princess?" My younger sister, Cheryl, pushed the salad aside first and cooed, "I want to be the little princess. I want the salad." I looked at that bowl of braised pork belly that had made me vomit countless times in my past life, picked it up without hesitation, and wolfed it down. "This time, you'll be the one to pay the price for perfection. 01, the flawed and the priceless." That was the sound of a scalpel parting flesh, sizzle. It was like a zipper being ripped apart by force. I could even feel the cold metal probing into my abdominal cavity, churning among my warm organs. There was no anesthesia. Father said that only by feeling the pain while fully conscious can the soul remember the lesson, and the flesh, contracting from fear, can become tighter, more perfect. "Grace, how many times has your father told you?" Jonathan's voice came through the halo of the surgical light, carrying that gentle, regretful tone that made my soul tremble. "The standard waist measurement is 55 centimeters. This morning, you measured 55.1. Do you know what that extra 0.1 centimeter signifies? It signifies a loss of control, a blemish. It means you are no longer my perfect work of art." I wanted to beg for mercy, to scream, but my vocal cords had long been removed, to prevent me from making unseemly laughter or cries. My vision blurred as I watched him raise the boning knife and aim it at my ribs. "Don't be afraid. Once we remove this one, you'll be back in compliance." A wave of agony hit me, and darkness swallowed everything. "Grace, Grace, what are you staring into space for?" A sharp, childish voice suddenly exploded in my ear. The pungent smell of disinfectant vanished, replaced by the familiar, lingering, and expensive scent of agarwood that always filled the house. I jolted violently, a cold sweat instantly soaking through the back of my shirt. My vision sharpened. It wasn't the cold, sterile operating table before me, but the opulent, suffocating dining room of my family home. A massive crystal chandelier hung overhead, each prism meticulously polished and gleaming with a cold, hard light. Across from me sat a face, youthful yet etched with calculation, my twin sister, Cheryl, and seated at the head of the table was the man I would recognize even if he were reduced to ashes, Jonathan. He was dressed in a well-tailored, dark gray house robe, the collar buttoned all the way to the top. His nails were neatly trimmed and smooth. In his hand, he held a silver butter knife, using it to measure the height of the 2 glasses of milk on the table. It had to be exact. "I'm asking you a question." Jonathan set down the ruler, his deep brown eyes sweeping over us as if scanning 2 newly manufactured products. "This week, the nutritionist has devised a new perfect plan." He pointed to the 2 starkly different breakfasts laid out before him. On the left was an exquisite crystal bowl containing a few lettuce leaves as thin as cicada wings, next to a small glass of clear liquid that gave off a peculiar herbal scent. To the right sat a chipped, coarse porcelain bowl, heaped with last night's leftover braised pork. The grease had congealed into a white, pasty layer that turned the stomach. Next to it was a bowl of cold, hardened rice. Only the most disciplined, the most obedient child is worthy of the princess meal, of wearing the splendid robes father made with his own hands, and of inheriting the family's honor. Jonathan's voice was dripping with seduction, like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. "The one without restraint gets to eat this slop and live as a worthless little urchin." In my past life, I was blinded by the phrase family honor and fought tooth and nail for that chance to eat the salad, because Cheryl was sickly from a young age, yet better at playing the sweet, innocent card. Dad always gave the best things to her. I was jealous, I was resentful, and I was determined to prove I was the best. In the end, I won. I endured 18 years of hell, culminating in a tragic death on the operating table. Cheryl, despite her poor diet, managed to secretly gain weight under my cover. After my death, she used my insurance money to live a life of carefree freedom. I wanted. An urgent cry snapped me out of my reverie. Cheryl practically threw herself across the table as if I were about to snatch it, shielding the crystal bowl with her whole body. "Dad, I'm the older sister. Even if it's only by a few minutes, I should set a good example. I'm going to eat this healthy one." She shot me a defiant look, her eyes brimming with triumph. In 7-year-old Cheryl's eyes, the crystal bowl represented being cherished and being special. That bowl of leftovers symbolized punishment and degradation. Looking at her was like looking at the foolish version of myself from a past life. I fought to steady my trembling hands, kept my head down, and feigned a look of pitiful, helpless submission. If my sister wants it, then she can have it. I timidly reached out and pulled the coarse porcelain bowl toward me. The pungent smell of congealed lard filled my nostrils, yet in that moment, it made me feel utterly safe. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. Seemingly taken aback by my concession, he gave me a deep, penetrating look that sent a chill down my spine, but soon, he turned to Cheryl with a satisfied smile. Good, Cheryl is so ambitious. He reached out and stroked the top of Cheryl's head, his touch gentle yet reminiscent of petting a dog. Starting today, you are my key project, my masterpiece. 02, rearing and discarding. In this house, eating is not for survival, but a ritual, or perhaps, to be more precise, it is a precise chemical experiment. Cheryl soon regretted it. That clear liquid was no ambrosia, but Jonathan's special detox water. Ugh, Cheryl gagged, covering her mouth after just one sip. It's so bitter, Daddy, it's too bitter. I want meat, she pleaded, looking at Jonathan with tearful eyes, trying her usual foolproof tactic of sweet-talking him. In the past, Jonathan might have frowned and then given in, but ever since that perfect plan was set in motion, he became a different person, or rather, he finally tore off that mask of normalcy. Swallow it. The smile never left Jonathan's face, but the air around them seemed to freeze solid in an instant. He picked up the napkin and dabbed the corner of his mouth with an elegance that made his soft tone all the more chilling. Cheryl, a perfect princess must never say something is bitter. There are far too many impurities in your body. They must be purged completely for the most pristine flesh and blood to grow. If you don't finish it, you'll have to be punished. He pointed towards the massive grandfather clock in the corner. 3 minutes left. Cheryl was frozen in fear. Spoiled as she was, an animal-like instinct told her that her father was dangerous right now. Pinching her nose, she gulped it down between sobs. Meanwhile, I sat at the other end of the table, shoveling down mouthfuls of cold rice and greasy braised pork. It was heavenly. I hadn't tasted this rich, fatty, carb-loaded flavor in what felt like 2 lifetimes. In my previous life, to maintain that 55-centimeter waistline, I strictly limited my daily calorie intake to under 500. For every extra bite I took, Jonathan would force me to vomit, even going so far as to flush my stomach with a tube. The burning sensation of stomach acid corroding my esophagus is still etched in my memory, and now, feeling the gradual, satisfying fullness in my stomach, I was overwhelmed with the urge to cry. Jonathan shot me a look of disgust. Grace, your table manners are atrocious, he frowned, looking at her as if she were a piece of non-recyclable trash. If you're determined to debase yourself, so be it. From now on, you get all the leftovers. Don't waste food. Thanks, Dad, I mumbled in reply, not even bothering to wipe the grease from the corner of my mouth. I know it, he's decommissioning me. In this house, being discarded means no new clothes, no allowance, and freedom from that man's suffocating attention, which means freedom. After the meal, Jonathan took Cheryl's hand and stood up. All right, Cheryl, now that you've had your princess meal, it's time for your measurements. Cheryl stuck her tongue out at me, a smug look on her face as if flaunting the special favor she was about to receive. I watched them walk into the room at the far end of the second floor, Jonathan's studio. The place that had been my personal nightmare in my past life. The moment the door closed, I heard the distinct click of the lock. That was the sound of the gates of hell swinging open. I quietly cleared away my own dishes, and even took the initiative to clean up the mess Cheryl had left behind. Then, I retreated to my little room. The room faced north, perpetually sunless, cold, and damp, but I didn't care. I fished a tape measure out from under the bed and, with trembling hands, wrapped it around my waist. 58 centimeters, perfect. I dug out a pack of emergency ration crackers I'd hidden deep in the drawer and took a savage bite. That coarse, dry texture exploded on my tongue. As I chewed, I repeated a silent mantra to myself. Eat more, Grace, you need to get fat, you need to become coarse, you need to become ordinary. You had to become ugly enough so that the madman wouldn't want to skin you and turn you into his beloved doll. 03, the perfect first step. Another 2 weeks passed in this bizarre fashion. Cheryl had changed. The sister, once plump, adorable, and full of energy, was visibly wasting away. Her complexion began to sallow, and her once rosy lips turned pale and chapped. Yet, Jonathan could not stop singing its praises. Behold, he said, this is the effect of purification. At dinner, Jonathan used a vernier caliper to measure Cheryl's wrist with clinical precision. The cold metal bit into the bony prominence of her wrist. The bone structure is becoming prominent. His eyes burned with a fanatical gleam, as if admiring a piece of jade being carved to perfection. Cheryl, you're doing wonderfully. Just lose another kilogram, and your collarbones will be deep enough to hold the morning dew. Cheryl slumped weakly against the back of her chair, swallowing hard as she stared at the mountain of fried chicken drumsticks piled on the plate in front of me. Dad, I'm so hungry. Her voice was faint, a mere whisper. I just want a bite of the chicken leg, just one bite. No, Jonathan's voice shot up sharply, making Cheryl flinch. He sprang to his feet, snatched the plate from in front of me, and smashed it violently onto the floor. Crash! The fried chicken leg tumbled onto the carpet, picking up dust. That's slop, that's food for trash. Jonathan pointed at me, his eyes full of malice. Grace is ruined. Just look at her now. Her face is all puffy. Her waist is as thick as a barrel. It's an insult to my family's genes. I hung my head, pretending to tremble. I've only gained a few pounds, really. My face has filled out a bit, and it just makes me look healthier. But in the eyes of Jonathan, who suffers from severe OCD, any excess fat is a sin. Cheryl, you are meant to be a white swan. Jonathan took a deep breath, composed himself, and softened his tone once more. He pulled an exquisite little bottle from his pocket, tipped out a red pill, and pushed it into Cheryl's mouth. There, take this and you won't be hungry anymore. It's a special elixir Daddy made just for you. My heart skipped a beat. That pill, I had taken it in my previous life, too. It was a potent mix of high-concentration stimulants, appetite suppressants, and some unidentified hallucinogenic compounds. After taking it, a person would become intensely alert, feeling no fatigue or hunger, as if they were light enough to float away, but this was merely borrowing against one's own life. Sure enough, within 10 minutes of swallowing the pill, a sickly, unnatural flush spread across Cheryl's ashen complexion. Her eyes were frighteningly bright. Dad, I'm not hungry anymore. I feel full of energy. She hopped down from the chair and spun a circle on the rug, like a tireless top. Good girl, Jonathan said with a satisfied smile. As a reward, I'll take you down to the basement tonight to see the real secret. The basement. Those 3 words pierced my eardrums like a needle. In my past life, I never got to enter that heavily sealed basement, not even before I died, but I knew that was where all of Jonathan's secrets were hidden, the very source of his madness. As I watched Cheryl's excited figure retreat, I felt not a shred of envy, but a bone-chilling dread rising within me, because I knew, the moment Jonathan was willing to show you his collection, it meant one thing. He already considered you a part of it. 04, the secret of the specimen room. Cheryl never came back to sleep that night. I didn't see her again until the next morning. She was wearing an elaborate lace nightgown, hand-sewn by Jonathan, every stitch meticulously crafted, yet profoundly constricting. Her gaze was vacant, as if she had suffered a profound shock, or as if something had stolen her very soul. I was standing in punishment in the yard, Jonathan's penalty for me, because I let out a burp during dinner last night, which he deemed utterly vulgar. Grace, Cheryl approached me, looking at me through the iron bars. Her voice was soft, carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Do you know what's in the basement? I shook my head, taking a bite of the steamed bun I had secretly stashed away. No, are there monsters in there? Far more terrifying than any monster, Cheryl muttered to herself, before letting out a nervous laugh. No, that is beauty, that is eternal beauty. She suddenly leaned in close, grabbing my wrist through the bars of the fence. Her hand was icy cold, her nails digging deep into my flesh. Sis, you know what? Dad's true love was never us. It was Selena he loved, Selena. The moment that name was spoken, a long-buried memory jolted awake in my mind. I think I heard that name once, a long time ago when I was very little. It was during a fierce argument between my parents. My mother screamed hysterically, "She's dead. Can't you just let the living be?" Not long after that, my mother passed away from illness. Who is Selena? I asked, feigning ignorance. Cheryl's pupils dilated, her gaze turning fanatical and eerie, exactly the same way Jonathan had looked at her the night before. She was perfect, lying in the crystal coffin. Her skin was as white as snow, her eyelashes as long as a fan. She wouldn't cry, wouldn't fuss, wouldn't age, and wouldn't change. Dad says if I just lose another 5 pounds and lighten my skin a bit, I can be as beautiful as Selena. At that, Cheryl suddenly let go, wiping her hand on her dress in disgust. Your hands are so greasy, sis. They smell like sweat, just as father said, a defective product like you belongs in the mud. With that, she turned and left, staggering back to that devouring castle like a proud swan with a broken wing. I watched her retreating figure, a chill running down my spine. So that's how it is. In my past life, I never understood, even until my dying breath, why Jonathan was so pathologically obsessed with perfection. It turns out we were all just substitutes. He was looking for a vessel. A vessel to resurrect that dead, or perhaps never truly existed, Selena. Cheryl saw the specimen. Her mind had already been brainwashed and assimilated by Jonathan. She began to actively cooperate with Jonathan's modifications. As for me, I had to pick up the pace. Lately, I've noticed our housekeeper, Auntie Sue, has been giving me strange looks. Auntie Sue is the senior member of the household, and the only one who dares to sneak me steamed buns behind Jonathan's back. While Jonathan took Cheryl to the hospital for a checkup, really to have her blood drawn for tests, I slipped into the kitchen. Auntie Sue was chopping vegetables and jumped when she saw me come in. "Grace, what are you doing in here? If the master sees you, Auntie Sue." I grabbed her hand, my gaze more resolute than ever before. "You know who Selena is, don't you? How did Mom really die back then?" The knife in Auntie Sue's hand clattered to the floor with a loud clang. Her face turned deathly pale. She looked around in terror, lowering her voice to a whisper. "What a sin, what a sin. Grace, listen to your aunt, eat more, get plump, make yourself plain. Whatever you do, don't let your father think you're pretty. Your mother back then, she was driven out of her mind, all because she looked too much like that woman." 05, Mother's Diary. Auntie Sue was a pushover. With just a few words from me, I had a nightmare, and I saw Mom crying. I broke through her defenses, and her resolve crumbled. Trembling, she pulled a yellowed diary from a discarded vase in the storage room. "Your mother hid this before she left. She said if either of you sisters was ever chosen by the master, I should give it to her." Auntie Sue wiped her tears, her clouded eyes filled with fear. "Grace, I don't dare give it to you. I'm afraid of the master. He's a monster." I took the diary. Its cover felt cold and rough to the touch. This was the turning point of my rebirth. In my past life, I never knew this diary existed, not even when I died. I retreated to my room, huddled under the covers, and opened the diary by the faint glow of my phone. The handwriting in the diary was a frantic, chaotic scrawl, betraying the writer's utter state of collapse. October 3rd, Jonathan has lost his mind. He actually brought that thing home. That's no ordinary doll. It's made from human skin. That's an actual corpse. He named it Selena and told me to call it my daughter. November 15th, I'm pregnant. It's twins. Jonathan was thrilled, but the reason for his joy sent a chill down my spine. He placed a hand on my belly and said, "Finally, we have the raw materials." Raw materials. That's our child. Grace and Cheryl were born on February 8th. Grace takes after me more, while Cheryl looks more like him. Jonathan was rather cold towards Grace, but he couldn't get enough of Cheryl. I thought it was because he favored sons over daughters, but I later realized he felt Grace's bone structure wasn't standard enough. On June 1st, I discovered he was feeding Cheryl that medication. It's a growth-suppressing drug. He said Selena will always look 7 years old, so Cheryl can't grow up either. I'm taking the children and leaving. I have to get out of here. The final page, stained with blood. I can't leave. He locked me in the basement. I saw Selena's true face. Oh my God. It wasn't someone else, it was his first loves. The diary ends abruptly here. The next few pages had been torn out. I closed the diary, my heart hammering against my ribs. First love, Jonathan's first love. An image flashed through my mind, the painting at the end of the hallway at home, shrouded in black cloth. Jonathan never let anyone touch it, so the so-called Selena wasn't their stillborn daughter, but rather Jonathan's unrequited obsession. He couldn't have the woman, so he made a specimen of her instead. What? He even wants to mold his own daughter into that woman's image. A wave of disgust shot straight to the crown of his head. Just then, the sound of a car engine came from downstairs. They're back. I quickly hid the diary between the layers of the mattress, then snatched the half-eaten steamed bun from the table and pretended to be wolfing it down. The door swung open. Cheryl drifted in, looking like a delicate, broken doll. She was even thinner now, moving with an unsteady, almost floating gait, yet she cradled a box in her hands, her face glowing with a sickly happiness. "Sister, look." She opened the box to reveal a pair of red high heels inside. They were no bigger than the palm of a hand. "Those are for someone with bound feet, or for a 7-year-old child." Dad said if I could fit into these shoes, I could see Selena. Cheryl caressed the shoes obsessively, as if they were a ticket to heaven. I looked at those shoes and saw only 2 monsters with gaping, bloody maws. In my past life, these shoes were meant for me. To fit into them, Jonathan had my foot bones brutally broken and reshaped. "They're so beautiful." I praised them sincerely, with genuine warmth in my eyes. "Little sister, your feet are so petite. They would look lovely on you." I could never manage it. I'm just a big-footed country girl. As I spoke, I deliberately stuck out my foot in the size 40 slippers. I'd bought them 2 sizes too large on purpose. Cheryl shot me a disdainful look. "You'll only ever be fit for slippers in this lifetime." She walked off, cradling the shoes and absolutely over the moon. Watching her retreating figure, the smile in my eyes vanished in an instant. "Put them on. Those are the dancing shoes that lead to hell. Once you put them on, you can never stop. Not until you've danced your life away." 06. A monstrous feast. As the perfect plan progressed, the atmosphere at home grew increasingly unsettling. Jonathan began hosting appreciation gatherings at the house. The guests were all impeccably dressed middle-aged men, yet their eyes held a disturbing murkiness. They introduced themselves as artists and collectors, but to me, they were nothing more than monsters in human skin. In my past life, I was the centerpiece of that banquet, dressed up like a doll. I sat in a wheelchair, my foot having just undergone surgery, letting those people measure my arms and neck with their white-gloved hands. They would murmur in admiration, "Mr. Jonathan's craftsmanship is truly divine. The bone structure is simply exquisite." This time, the spotlight was on Cheryl. On the night of the banquet, Cheryl wore a white lace dress so tight she could barely breathe. A thick layer of foundation caked her face, masking its sickly pallor. She walked in those red high heels, and with every step, I could see the corner of her mouth twitch. It was the sound of her bones crying out in protest. Yet, the perfectly practiced, 15-degree smile Jonathan had drilled into her remained fixed on her face. As a subpar and unpresentable product, I was ordered to stay in the kitchen and help out, forbidden from showing my face in the front hall and embarrassing everyone. That suited me just fine. I hid behind the crack in the kitchen door, watching the absurd performance unfold with a cold, detached gaze. In the center of the living room, Jonathan held Cheryl's hand as if presenting a priceless treasure. "Everyone, this is my latest masterpiece, flawless," he announced proudly. "Her body fat percentage is down to 8%, her skin has undergone 3 bleaching treatments, and her vocal cords have been finely tuned. Her voice is now as clear as a lark's." The guests gasped in amazement and gathered around. "It's perfect. It's almost not like a real person, more like an angel." A bald man reached out and pinched Cheryl's cheek. "The texture is really different from silicone. The real thing is just better." Cheryl flinched, but under Jonathan's stern gaze, she dared not shrink away. "Uncle, hello." Her voice trembled as she spoke. It was indeed high-pitched, yet it carried a distinct, breathless weakness. I saw Auntie Sue wiping away tears beside us, the plate in her hands trembling. "Oh, for heaven's sake." Suddenly, an accident occurred, perhaps because she hadn't eaten enough in a long time, or perhaps because those shoes were too painful. Her legs gave way as she turned to show off the line of her back. Thud, she fell heavily to the ground, like a puppet with broken joints. Her posture was twisted and grotesque. "Ah!" she cried out in pain. Tears instantly welled up, smearing her meticulously applied makeup. The once perfect mask cracked, revealing the terrified, pained 7-year-old girl beneath. A deathly silence instantly fell over the hall. Jonathan's smile froze on his face. That mask of gentle refinement shattered in an instant, replaced by a look of pure, venomous rage. "Get up," he commanded in a low voice, the words hissing through clenched teeth. "A perfect princess doesn't fall. Get up." Cheryl was trembling violently from her sobs. She tried to stand, but her misshapen feet couldn't support her weight. "Dad, I can't, it hurts." Sob. "Shut up." Jonathan lunged forward, grabbing Cheryl by the hair and forcing her head back. "You've ruined my party, you useless thing." In front of all the guests, he raised his hand and slapped Cheryl hard across the face. Smack. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the hall. The guests did not step in to stop him. Instead, they wore the look of spectators, even a hint of excitement in their eyes. It was just a craftsman disciplining a disobedient tool. I stood in the shadows, my fists clenched tight, my nails dug into my palms, but I felt no pain. "Jonathan, this is only the beginning. You will find that every single one of your proud creations will crumble, and you, the so-called creator, will ultimately be devoured by your own creation." 07. The failure and its replacement. The banquet ended on a sour note. Cheryl was locked in the solitary confinement room, the entrance to the basement. That night, I heard her heart-wrenching screams, along with Jonathan's furious roars. Why? Why was it just short by a hair's breadth? Why can't any of you ever be as obedient as Selena? The next day, when Jonathan emerged from the basement, his eyes were bloodshot, and he exuded an aura of weary menace. He sat on the sofa, the familiar scalpel twirling between his fingers. Auntie Sue timidly brought in the breakfast. Cheryl did not come out. As usual, I sat in the corner, quietly eating my steamed bun. Jonathan's gaze suddenly fell upon me. It was a scrutinizing, appraising, and even a settling for less kind of look. All my internal alarm bells started ringing. "Grace," he spoke suddenly, his voice hoarse, "your sister is ill." I feigned fear, shrinking my neck back. "What's wrong with her?" "She wasn't strong enough. Her will was too fragile to bear the weight of beauty." Jonathan stood up and slowly walked towards me. As he drew closer, the acrid smell of disinfectant and formaldehyde grew stronger. He stopped before me, looking down from his full height. Then he reached out and gripped my chin. His fingers were ice-cold, like 2 serpents coiling against my skin. "You have a rather large frame, and a bit more flesh than ideal." He narrowed his eyes, as if calculating how much would need to be trimmed away to meet the standard. "But your vitality is remarkably strong. Auntie Sue says you never get sick." My heart nearly stopped. In that moment, I realized that Cheryl's failure had not made me safe. That, in fact, made me the only candidate left. In this madman's logic, there was no giving up, only substitution. "Daddy, I'm scared it'll hurt." I squeezed out a few tears, my whole body trembling, disguising myself as a cowardly, useless wretch, and I think I might have a skin condition. I rolled up my sleeve, revealing the large, angry-looking patch of red, swollen rash on my arm that I'd deliberately given myself with stinging nettles the day before. It was a shocking sight. Auntie Sue says it's contagious and will make your skin rot. Jonathan jerked his hand away as if he'd been shocked. He was a germaphobe, and a perfectionist to boot. Such imperfections and contagion were utterly intolerable to him. Disgusting. He recoiled in disgust, taking several steps back, then frantically wiped his hands with a handkerchief as if they were contaminated with some deadly virus. Stay away from me. Get back to your room. I felt a wave of immense relief, clutching the steamed bun as I scrambled and stumbled back to my room. I shut the door, leaned against it, and gasped for air. That was close, but I knew this was only a temporary reprieve. Cheryl is done for, sooner or later. He'll find a way to cure my skin condition, and then he'll come for me. Or perhaps he'll do something even more insane. I have to fight back. I pulled the hidden diary out from under the mattress and turned to the last page. Tucked inside was a faded, yellowing photograph. In the photo, a young Jonathan had his arm around a woman in a white dress. The woman was the spitting image of my late mother, or rather, my mother looked just like her, and in the background of the picture, I spotted a familiar symbol. That's the emblem of the city's largest psychiatric hospital. Green Hills Sanatorium was Jonathan's first love, a mental patient, or perhaps Jonathan himself was a frequent visitor there. I stared at the emblem, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my mouth. Jonathan, since you're so fond of locking people away as lunatics, this time, I'll be the one sending you back to where you belong. 08. The madman's medical record. Jonathan had one unshakable rule, from 3 to 5 every afternoon. He must be left completely alone in his study. At this point, even a fly that dared to enter would meet its end by his electric swatter. In my past life, I regarded this place as sacred ground, tiptoeing even when merely passing by, but now, I know this place holds his Achilles heel. That afternoon, Auntie Sue was stewing soup in the kitchen, while Jonathan took that set of silver surgical tools down to the basement. He said Cheryl's foot bones still needed some fine-tuning. The basement was so well soundproofed that no one upstairs could hear a thing, even if someone was screaming their lungs out down there. This presented me with a perfect opportunity. I stole a thin piece of wire from Auntie Sue's sewing kit, a lock-picking skill I'd learned in a previous life from an old thief in the orphanage, where I'd stayed briefly after my parents died. The study's door lock wasn't complicated. It was an old-fashioned pin tumbler lock. Click, with a soft sound. The door opened, a wave of stale paper and pungent ink assaulted his senses. The study was unlit, its heavy velvet curtains drawn tight as a lightless coffin. I groped my way over to the massive mahogany desk. The desktop was unnervingly clean, every pen was arranged by length, and all the papers were aligned perfectly parallel to the desk's edge. I knew just how severe Jonathan's OCD was, so I had to memorize the exact placement of every single item. I pulled open the bottom drawer. It was locked. But I didn't need to open it. I knew where the real secret was hidden. In my past life, while sorting through the belongings, I discovered a hidden compartment behind the bookcase. I moved aside the row of heavy human anatomy volumes and felt around the gap in the shelf with my fingers. Just as I thought, my fingers found a tiny, raised bump. I pressed it. With a creak, a wooden panel sprang open, revealing a small black metal box inside. My hands trembling, I opened the box. Inside, there were no gold bars, no property deeds, only a thick stack of medical records and a few yellowed newspaper clippings. At the top of the pile, a diagnosis form bore the stark letterhead, Green Mountain Psychiatric Sanatorium, name, Jonathan, diagnosis, paranoid schizophrenia, fetishism, Capgras delusion, note, the patient exhibits severe cognitive impairment regarding others, harboring the delusion that loved ones have been replaced. He believes only through reformation can their true selves be restored. He displays extreme aggression and a need for control, with a documented history of attempting to preserve a stray cat as a specimen. My hands are trembling. I see, Capgras delusion. He believes the people around him are imposters. No wonder he always called me a defective product and Cheryl a work in progress. In his eyes, living, breathing people were fake. Only the dolls he had modified, the ones that no longer breathed, were his real family. I kept scrolling down. Below was a clipping from an old newspaper, dated 20 years ago. The headline read, Famous model Lynn Selena mysteriously disappears. Police suspect serial killer involvement. It was accompanied by a photograph. The woman in the photo wore a white ballet dress, her smile stiff and perfect, just like the legendary Selena from Jonathan's basement. And in a corner of the news article, there was an inconspicuous name, last witness, Jonah, fourth-year medical student. That was Jonathan. All the pieces of the puzzle finally clicked into place. He fell in love with that supermodel. Maybe she rejected him, or maybe he found the living version imperfect. He kidnapped her, killed her, and then turned her into his first masterpiece. And Cheryl, me, even my deceased mother. We were all just spare parts he had prepared to resurrect Selena Lynn. Suddenly, Heavy footsteps echoed from downstairs. It was the sound of leather shoes on the wooden floor, step by step, unhurried, yet each one felt like a stomp on my heart. He's back. How could he be back so soon? In a panic, I stuffed everything back into the tin box, returned it to its hidden compartment, and slid the book back into place. The very instant I slipped out of the study and closed the door, a tall figure appeared at the top of the stairs. Jonathan stood in the shadows. The silver toolbox in his hand, blood was still dripping from the seams of the case. Grace, he narrowed his eyes, his gaze sweeping over me like a searchlight. What are you doing by the study door? 09. The cry from the basement. I was trying to catch a mouse. I hunched my shoulders, pointed towards the corner, and made sure to put on a suitably terrified expression. A huge rat just ran in there. It was enormous. It scared me half to death. Jonathan's brow furrowed instantly. Rats. For someone with severe mysophobia, the presence of a rat is more intolerable than murder. Damn it, how could there be such filth in this house? He growled in fury, strode to the study door, and flung it open. Seizing the moment he was inspecting the study, I slipped downstairs like a ghost, without a sound. My back was already soaked with cold sweat. If he had lived just a moment longer, he would have seen the dust on my fingers, the distinctive, ancient grime from the secret compartment of the bookcase, but I had no time for second thoughts. The toolbox Jonathan brought back was dripping with blood, which meant Cheryl was in a very bad way. I had to go check on her. Late at night, the entire villa was plunged into a deathly silence, broken only by the steady tick-tock of the wall clock. Jonathan suffers from severe neurasthenia. Wearing earplugs to sleep and taking heavy doses of sleeping pills, barefoot, I avoided all the creaky floorboards and felt my way to the basement entrance. The door was locked, but that didn't stop me. The location of the spare key, which I had secretly observed from Auntie Sue earlier, now came in handy. As the heavy iron door slowly creaked open, a pungent wave of formaldehyde mixed with the stench of decay hit me, covering my nose and mouth. I descended the stairs by the faint light of my phone. The basement was even larger than I had imagined. The walls were covered with various anatomical charts, and rows of glass jars, were those eyeballs floating inside, and fingers. In the very center of the hall stood an operating table. Cheryl was lying right there on it, or rather, she was pinned there. Her body was swathed in white bandages, her limbs tightly strapped down with leather belts. The most horrifying part was her feet. The red high heels had been removed, replaced by 2 steel plates. Screws had been driven directly through her ankles and the soles of her feet, forcibly locking the bones into a grotesque, perpendicular shape. This is the legendary ballet foot cosmetic surgery. Sister. Cheryl seemed to sense something and weakly opened her eyes. Her gaze had already grown vacant, her pupils unfocused, like a broken doll. Sis, it hurts so much, Dad said. If I can just make it through tonight, I'll become Selena. She's still dreaming. Even after being tortured like this, she still believes it's fatherly love. I walked over to her and looked at her face, once so domineering and arrogant, now as pale as a sheet. At that moment, the hatred in my heart unexpectedly began to fade. It was replaced by a profound sense of sorrow. We are all meat on the chopping block. The only difference is who goes into the pot first. Cheryl, wake up. I leaned close to her ear, my voice cold and clear. Selena never existed. That crystal coffin is empty. Father just wants to take your bones apart and piece them together into the toy he desires. Look at that jar over there. I forced her head to turn, making her look at the shelf in the corner. One of the jars had a label on it. Specimen A03, left little finger bone. That was Cheryl's finger. In her past life, she was missing a finger. Jonathan called it an accident. So this is where it was. Cheryl's pupils dilated violently. No, Daddy loves me. Daddy said I was perfect. She began to struggle, the steel plate grinding against bone with a sickening, grating sound. Shoo! I clamped a hand over her mouth and pulled a sharp little knife from my pocket, a fruit knife I'd swiped from the kitchen. In this life, he's already ruined you. Do you want to live? Do you want revenge? I pressed the knife handle into her one good hand, concealing it beneath the bandages. The next time he changes your dressing, drive it in. Drive it into his neck. Cheryl stared at me, her eyes flickering with a light that finally hardened into a feral, animalistic madness. Her grip tightened on the knife. It was the final thong of a desperate soul. 10. The perfect sacrifice. Cheryl still couldn't bring herself to do it. Perhaps a 7-year-old's strength was too feeble, or perhaps a deeply ingrained servility made her falter at the final moment. The next morning, I heard a shriek from the basement, followed by the sound of something heavy crashing down. When Jonathan emerged from the basement, he had a band-aid on his neck, and his face was as dark as a thundercloud. It's been taken care of, he said to Auntie Sue, who was wiping the table, his tone casual as if discussing taking out the trash. Since it wouldn't listen, it's no use keeping it around. The rag fell from Auntie Sue's hand, and her whole body went limp. I sat at the dining table, mechanically chewing on the steamed bun. While my heart felt as if it were being crushed in a giant's fist. Cheryl is dead, or has she been locked away? Either way, it means one thing. I'm next. Sure enough, after tending to his wound, Jonathan turned his gaze toward me. This time, his eyes held no trace of disdain, only a ravenous, almost manic hunger. Since the perfect material was ruined, I'd have to make do with a flawed substitute. Grace, he walked up to me, his fingers tracing my cheek. The pungent, metallic scent of blood assaulted my nostrils. You see, you're all I have left now, even though your skin isn't the fairest, and your bones aren't the softest. It's all right. A gentle smile spread across his face, but a hint of cruelty lurked in the crow's feet at the corners of his eyes. Dad's skills have improved. Tonight, we begin the first step of the procedure. Let's start by replacing this coarse skin. This was the death warrant. The so-called skin replacement involves using high-concentration chemical agents to corrode the epidermal layer, forcing the skin into a state of ulceration and regeneration. It's said that the new skin that grows back will be as soft as a baby's. 11. The pill and the ghost in the mirror. There were only 5 hours left until Jonathan's scheduled procedure. I had to make him truly insane within those 5 hours. There was a bottle of pills at home. The vitamins Jonathan had to take every night. In reality, they were high-dose clozapine, used to suppress his schizophrenia and auditory hallucinations, and in Cheryl's room, there remained a half-empty bottle of miracle pills, a poisonous cocktail of hallucinogens, stimulants, and steroids. What I had to do was execute a perfect switch, seizing the moment while Jonathan was in the basement adjusting the surgical light. I slipped into his bedroom. The bedroom was filled with a sharp, cold scent of sandalwood, and on the nightstand sat that white pill bottle. My palms were slick with sweat, and my heart was pounding like thunder. Hurry, faster. I flushed the clozapine down the toilet, then ground Cheryl's remaining red pills into powder, mixed it with flour, and kneaded it back into the shape of white tablets, a special skill of pill making I had honed in my previous life to curry favor with Jonathan. Back then, he praised my deft hands, saying I was a natural-born pharmacist. The irony is, that very skill has now become the instrument of his demise. With that done, I returned the medicine bottle to its exact spot, position and angle, perfectly aligned. Jonathan is a stickler for detail. The slightest deviation, even by a millimeter, would make him suspicious. After finishing, I didn't leave. I stood before his enormous floor-to-ceiling dressing mirror. In the mirror, I saw myself wearing the white dress my mother loved most in her life, the one I had dug out from the storage room. After days of deliberate overeating and the marks left by the tight corset, my figure had somehow come to bear a faint resemblance to my mother's in the photographs. I took a deep breath and pulled a tube of lipstick from my pocket. It was a deep, blood-red shade. Slowly, deliberately, I traced the words onto the mirror. I am not perfect. You are not perfect either. Who is the imposter? Once finished, I quickly wiped away my fingerprints and slipped into the hidden compartment of the wardrobe, my pre-selected front row seat for the show. 10 minutes later, Jonathan entered. He looked weary, the silver scalpel still clutched in his hand. When he looked up and saw the crimson words scrawled across the mirror, his entire body froze. Who's there? Who's there? He spun around, brandishing the scalpel, his eyes darting around the empty room in panic. Grace. Auntie Sue. No one answered, only the curtains rustled in the wind. He rushed to the mirror, his hands trembling as he tried to wipe away the words, but the more he wiped, the redder it became. The greasy lipstick smeared, spreading like a large, winding stain of blood, reflecting his face, twisted with rage and terror. Imperfect, I'm imperfect, he muttered, his pupils beginning to contract violently. For a patient with Capgras delusion, having their authenticity and perfection questioned is more agonizing than death. Trembling, he picked up the pill bottle from the nightstand, shook out 2 vitamins, and swallowed them dry, watching from the crack in the wardrobe. A cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Eat up, Dad. That's a one-way ticket to paradise. 12. Twilight of the Gods. The drug took effect faster than I'd imagined. Something was clearly off with Jonathan during dinner. His hands trembled slightly as he held his knife and fork, his gaze drifting off into empty space as if someone were standing there. Shut up, he suddenly roared at the empty air, smashing the freshly served soup bowl to pieces. Auntie Sue dropped to her knees, trembling with fear. Sir, no one is speaking. Shut up, you heard it too, didn't you? She's crying, she's laughing. Jonathan sprang to his feet, pointing a finger right at Auntie Sue's nose. You're a fake too. Why is your skin all wrinkled? You're not Auntie Sue. Who sent you? Who are you spying for? He was having an episode. The hallucinogens amplified his paranoia to an extreme degree. To him now, everyone looked like a monster with a rotting face. Seizing the moment, I spoke up timidly. Dad, your face. Jonathan whipped his head around, his gaze fierce. What about my face? I pointed a trembling finger at the reflective glass window nearby, my voice shaking. Your face, it looks like it's cracking. Impossible, Jonathan screamed, rushing to the glass. In his drug-induced hallucination, he might have truly seen his own face, cracked like shattered porcelain, riddled with fissures, and even insects crawling out from within. He clutched his face in agony, his nails digging deep into his flesh, leaving bloody scratches. I am perfect. I am the creator. I cannot be broken. It's you. You defective ones have corrupted me. He whirled around, his eyes fixed on me, the blood vessels within them bulging as if ready to burst. Grace, I just need to swap you in. Just put on the new skin, then I can fix myself. Yes, the surgery, right now. He charged at me like a madman, grabbed my hair, and started dragging me towards the basement. No need to wait for an auspicious hour. We start now. A sharp pain shot through my scalp, but I didn't struggle, because I knew the basement would be his final resting place. There, I had prepared a final surprise just for him. The moment I was dragged into the basement, the stench of decay grew stronger. Jonathan threw me onto the operating table, scrambling frantically to find the anesthetic and restraints. Just peel your skin off, stitch it onto me, and I'll be perfect, he muttered incoherently, his movements growing clumsy from the drugs, while his back was turned as he prepared the injection. I quietly slipped the fruit knife I'd hidden in my sleeve and cut through the strap I had tampered with earlier. Then I flipped a switch next to the operating table. It was the defrost switch for the freezer. In my past life, I knew Jonathan treasured nothing more than that massive freezer in the corner, the one that held the legendary Selena. To keep the body from decaying, that unit had to maintain a constant temperature of -20 degrees Celsius. I had already sabotaged the thermostat when I snuck in last night, cranking the temperature to its maximum after a full 24 hours of festering. Click, the cabinet door swung open on its own. An overwhelming, sickening stench of decay, so thick it felt solid, instantly flooded the entire basement. What's that smell? Jonathan froze, then slowly turned his head. The next second, he let out the most blood-curdling scream a human is capable of. Selena, 13, the fallen Eden. The Selena whom Jonathan had worshipped as a goddess was now oozing out of the cabinet like a puddle of sludge. The heat had caused her once jade-white skin to blacken, swell, and bloat into a horrific state of putrefaction. Foul fluid seeped everywhere as maggots writhed in and out of the meticulously stitched wounds. This is no masterpiece. It's a crudely stitched together, long-rotted corpse. Even more horrifying, as the body disintegrates, its inner stuffing is revealed. A mass of bones and organs from countless different people. A man's hand bones, a child's ribs. This isn't Selena Lynn. This is a Frankenstein's monster, cobbled together from countless victims. No. Jonathan had lost his mind, his faith, his sanctuary, crumbled to dust in that very moment. He lunged forward, trying to stuff the spilled entrails back in, trying to stem the relentless flow of putrid fluid with his bare hands. Stop leaking. Please, I'm begging you, stop. You're perfect. You can't be broken. Daddy will fix you right now. Daddy will stitch you up. He knelt in the corpse-tainted water, his hands smeared with black, putrid fluid, his face streaked with tears of utter despair. The effects of the hallucinogen peaked at that very moment. In his eyes, perhaps the corpse was transforming into a vengeful spirit, coming to claim his life. Get away, don't touch me, I didn't kill you, it was your own imperfection. He brandished the scalpel, slashing wildly at the empty air, his body smeared with filth. I sat up on the operating table, watching the scene with cold detachment. Dad, I called out softly, in the empty basement. My voice echoed, like a judgment from hell. Jonathan turned his head stiffly to look at me. Who are you? His gaze was unfocused. Are you Grace? No, Grace was defective. Are you Selena? I slowly walked up to him, avoiding the stains on the floor. I am not Selena. I leaned down, looking into his eyes that were once so arrogant, now filled with terror. I am your reckoning. Jonathan, look at yourself. You reek of filth. Your hands are drenched in blood. You're like a maggot writhing in the gutter. Is this your idea of perfection? That single sentence was the final straw. Jonathan looked down at himself. In his hallucination, his skin began to fester and rot, chunks of his flesh sloughing off to reveal the stark white bone beneath. Yeah, I'm rotting too. He began frantically scraping at his own skin with a scalpel, trying to gouge out the decayed parts. Blood sprayed. He had turned himself into a true monster. Just then, a faint groan came from the corner. I turned my head and saw the sack that had been discarded beside the waste bin. The sack was moving. I walked over and opened the bag. Inside was Cheryl. She wasn't dead, but she was close. One of her feet had been severed. The wound was crudely bandaged and seeping blood. She was emaciated, nothing but skin and bones, with a terrifyingly vacant look in her eyes. When she saw me, her lips parted slightly. Sister, help me. I looked at her, feeling utterly unmoved. Help you, so I can rescue you, and you can go back to being the spoiled princess. No, this hell needs 2 gatekeepers. I help you up and lean you against the wall, facing the direction where Jonathan is losing his mind. See it clearly now, Cheryl. I whispered in her ear, "This is the love you've always dreamed of." Cheryl stared fixedly at Jonathan, the light in her eyes extinguished completely, leaving only boundless fear and hatred. 14. The crimson lotus that purifies all. Jonathan had completely lost his mind. He thrashed and screamed, rolling in the stagnant water of corpses, the blade in his hand having already carved his own flesh to ribbons. It was time to end this. I walked over to the lab shelf and picked up the container of high-purity medical-grade alcohol. This was what Jonathan normally used to sterilize specimens. Now, it would be used to cleanse this wicked family. I unscrewed the cap and splashed the alcohol into every corner. I doused the jars containing the eyeballs. It was splashed onto the rotting corpse of Selena. Finally, it was poured over Jonathan. The icy liquid drenched him, jolting him slightly back to consciousness. He lifted his head, looking at me through blood-crusted eyelids, a piece of putrid flesh still clutched tightly in his hand. "Grace, what are you doing? I was wrong. I'll treat you better from now on. You're the perfect one." Even with death staring him in the face, he was still trying to control me with that same old routine. I pulled a lighter from my pocket. That's the solid gold lighter Jonathan uses for his cigars. It has a wonderful heft to it. "Father, you taught me that defects must be eliminated. Now this entire family is defective, including you." Click, the flame leapt up, illuminating my expressionless face. I let go. The lighter traced a graceful arc through the air before landing in the puddle of alcohol. Whoosh, the fire erupted instantly, soaring upward like an enraged dragon, devouring everything. Formaldehyde and alcohol are excellent accelerants. Explosions rang out one after another. The glass jars shattered, sending eyeballs and severed fingers flying through the inferno like a macabre fireworks display. Jonathan became a living torch. He writhed, contorted, and howled within the sea of flames, his cries so piercing they sounded inhuman. I held Cheryl up from where she collapsed on the floor and dragged her toward the exit. I dragged Cheryl along like a rag doll. Her eyes were locked on her father in the inferno when she suddenly let out a bone-chilling laugh. "Ha ha, it's hot, so hot. Sister Selena, I'm melting too." She lost her mind. After the bone-deep agony and the collapse of her faith, her spirit shattered completely. I didn't look back. The heatwave behind me was scorching my back, yet all I felt was an unprecedented sense of relief. Burn, let it all burn to ashes. The sins, the twisted aesthetics, the nauseating desire for control. 15. The only perfection. The fire raged on through the entire night. The sound of fire engines echoed through half the city. When the police and firefighters pulled me from the lawn, I was clutching the unconscious Cheryl, covered in ash and sobbing uncontrollably. "Save my dad. Please save my dad. He went back in to save us. He's still in there." My performance was flawless. In everyone's eyes, I am the survivor who lost his father in the fire and desperately rescued his sister. No one knows that I was the one who set that fire. And no one knows the hell that so-called loving father was hiding in his basement. Although the basement was mostly destroyed by the fire, the police still managed to uncover some truly horrifying collectibles from the remaining traces. Jonathan's artist persona was shattered, revealing the monster serial killer who would shock the entire nation, and Cheryl and I became the most pitted victims of all. 3 months later, I'm sitting in another villa left by Jonathan, a glass of red wine in my hand. The inheritance procedures have been completed. As the sole guardian, I've inherited the entirety of the family's wealth. As for Cheryl, she's in the special care unit upstairs. She survived, but lost a foot and was left completely unhinged. Every day, she would just comb her hair in the empty air, muttering, "I'm a princess. I need my glass slippers." I set down my glass and went upstairs. I pushed the door open. Cheryl was sitting in her wheelchair, clutching that half-burnt, tattered doll. When she saw me enter, she flinched, her eyes filled with terror. Sister, I walked up to her, smiling as I stroked her hair. "Cheryl, it's time for your medicine." I pulled a small white pill bottle from my pocket and shook out 2 red tablets. It was Jonathan's old formula, which I had recreated. "This drug traps you in a permanent hallucination, making you obedient. Take this, and you'll be able to see your father." Cheryl's hands trembled as she took the pill, just like in her past life. She threw her head back and swallowed it. Soon, her gaze grew distant, and a vacant, foolish smile spread across her face. Daddy praised me." I watched her with satisfaction. "Look at that. After all the twists and turns, we've ended up right back where we started. Only this time, I'm the one holding the scalpel." I walked over to the full-length mirror and looked at my reflection. After 3 months of careful recuperation, my skin had become fair and smooth, my waist slender. The haute couture gown that once belonged to Cheryl fit me perfectly. As if it were a second skin, I picked up the lipstick from the table and carefully traced it over my lips. These eyes, this bone structure, they're looking more and more like the legendary Selena. No, even more beautiful than her, because I am alive, I have power. I have the strength to control everything. The perfection Jonathan sought his entire life was finally achieved by me. I looked into the mirror and flashed a perfect, 15-degree smile. Perfect, right, Dad. In the mirror, my smile blossoms like a flower, yet my eyes hold an abyss of unfathomable cold. Outside the window, the sun shines brightly, but its light cannot penetrate this gilded cage. A new cycle begins. The end. Story 2. At 7 months. We found out the baby had supermale chimerism. I decided to terminate the pregnancy. My husband exploded. Super males are alpha males. You're trying to end our family line. My mother-in-law bit her lip and sobbed. I know the truth. You just don't want to have a son. I insisted on checking into the hospital for an abortion while they were unprepared. My husband resented me deeply for it and pushed me off a cliff during our hike. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I received the report, with the doctor asking if I wanted to keep the baby. I gave a delicate smile and said, yes, I must have this baby. It would be a disservice to my husband's ancestors if I didn't. The moment we got home, my mother-in-law Wang Chenhong appeared with a pout. What took you so long? The baby's stomach is rumbling like thunder. She couldn't care less that I'm 7 months pregnant. Still makes me do all the laundry, cooking, and house cleaning every single day. Same story in my past life too. I hadn't even had a sip of water after getting back from the hospital when she tried to force me to cook. I just had a huge fight with my husband Li Jun about the baby, so I flat out refused. My mother-in-law suddenly covered her face and sobbed. I knew you never treated our baby as family. You just want to starve me and keep Xiaojun all to yourself. My poor baby lost his father. My husband furiously shielded his mother. How dare you yell at her? We agreed to take care of her together. She's the baby of this family. Don't you get it? With that, the two of them went out for a meal, accidentally locking the door behind them and leaving me alone at home, starving to the point of retching. Even then, I still hadn't blamed him or my mother-in-law. Not long after we first got married, my father-in-law succumbed to his illness and passed away. On his deathbed, he held both our hands, earnestly urging us to take good care of my mother-in-law, and made us swear to treat her as our own child before he finally closed his eyes. As for me, when I was 12, my father had an affair and my mother jumped off a cliff to her death. I was passed around among relatives like a football. What I wanted most was a father like this, because only then would my mother have stayed, so I bent over backwards for my mother-in-law. Not only did I set aside a room for her in our new home, but every day I'd slice apples into little bunny shapes, skewer them with toothpicks, and serve them in a baby bowl just as she liked. I even made sure her honey water was always precisely 35 degrees Celsius, using a thermometer each time to avoid scalding her. I even hand-washed her underwear. I thought sincerity would be met with sincerity, that I could finally have a mother. But it turns out she always saw herself as a pampered princess. When she found out about my miscarriage, her first reaction was, I know you just don't want to have a boy to treat the baby well. After that day, she started finding all sorts of ways to make my life difficult, sitting in the living room every afternoon eating and making a mess while she ate. No sooner would I clean up one area than she'd dirty another. She wouldn't even let me sleep at night, forcing me to listen to stories about her romance with my father-in-law. One day when I passed out on the couch from cold medicine, she threw a glass of cold water right in my face to wake me up. I could barely wait until my husband got home from work. Fuming, I poured out my frustration to him, but he just brushed it off, saying, "What's the big deal? My mom was just joking with you. Anyway, you're not pregnant. If you have a fever, just take some medicine and you'll be fine." At that thought, I looked at my frail mother-in-law who couldn't even take care of herself and smiled. "Mom, I'm pregnant with a super masculine baby who's tougher than any man. Our family will have another protector for you." The doctor made it very clear, this child will not only have violent tendencies but also a high likelihood of schizophrenia. He looked at me with utter disappointment, but I didn't bother to explain. After all, no matter how bad things get, it won't be me dealing with the fallout. My husband and mother-in-law will bear the brunt of it. Soon it'll be the punching bag dad and the weepy mother-in-law. Just thinking about it feels satisfying, but with over 2 months until the baby arrives, they certainly won't be sitting idle. I posted about the pregnancy online, and the chimera supermale, more terrifying than a supermale, quickly became a viral sensation. Some say it's the birth of a demon child, while others claim the king of Furong City has arrived. I seized the moment to create an account, gained 50,000 followers overnight, and rushed to share the good news with my husband. Look how incredible our baby is, not even born yet, and already so many people are following. In the future, he could become an influencer and earn you a Ferrari in just 1 year. I have to make him realize how valuable the baby in my womb truly is. That way he won't dare lay a finger on me, just as I suspected. The man who never came home in my past life has now become the perfect husband. He makes me fish soup and fruit platters every day, and even gives me massages when my back aches, he said. Just focus on resting well, everything else is my responsibility. His sweet talk had me completely charmed and smiling from ear to ear, but I'll never be as naive as I was in my past life, enduring his repeated domestic violence while still believing he loved me. I covered for him, never once suspecting he would kill me. My mother-in-law saw how well he treated me lately, and it ate away at her. She tried to prove she was the most favored woman in the house, finding every way to challenge me. Simply put, whatever pleased me displeased her, whatever I liked, she detested. The other day, my husband was exhausted after a long day and didn't have the energy to cook, so he just threw together 3 bowls of noodles. I don't want noodles, I want sweet and sour pork ribs. As soon as the food was served, my mother-in-law pointed tearfully at the image on her phone screen. My husband put his arm around her shoulder and said, "How about we have that tomorrow? It's too late to get ribs now." She shot me a smug sidelong glance, and I responded with a faint smile. "Honey, how did you know I was craving noodles? Did you hear me talking in my sleep?" My mother-in-law's face instantly darkened as she bit her lower lip. "But I really want some spare ribs, sweetie. When your father was around, he'd always find a way to get them for me, no matter how late it was. Do you think I'm a burden now?" At her words, my husband looked like a deer caught in headlights. He had no choice but to slink off to buy the ribs, not even getting a chance to eat his noodles. After happily finishing my noodles, I took a short nap in my room. The sweet and sour aroma eventually wafted into my nose, and I leisurely got up. "Honey, I want to start a live stream. I want to show all those netizens just how wonderful you are to me, making me spare ribs in the middle of the night," my mother-in-law exclaimed in disbelief. "This is for the baby, not for you to eat." I nervously twisted my fingers and lowered my head. "It's just that the buzz has died down lately, and I wanted to keep it going." "It's fine, mother-in-law, you go ahead and eat. I'll just skip the live stream." Unfortunately, my husband wouldn't have it and insisted I stay to go live. That whole plate of crispy sweet and sour pork ribs, served with my mother-in-law's livid expression, smells amazing. Just a few days later, my mother-in-law came up with another stunt. That night, just as my husband and I had fallen asleep, she barged in without a word, just wiping tears and sighing. She made us beg over and over before reluctantly speaking up. "The baby just misses her husband, thinking about the old days," she spoke through tears, stealing glances at me from the corner of her eye. The moment I closed my eyes, she'd raise her voice, but my husband was lost in memories of his father, his eyes red-rimmed as he tried to comfort her over and over. "Mom, please don't cry, or Dad will be pacing anxiously up in heaven." It suddenly dawned on me, back in my past life, my mother-in-law would always drag me out of the bedroom whenever she woke me up, claiming she didn't want to disturb my husband, so every day I'd be groggy and disoriented, and yet my husband would still complain that I had an attitude whenever I did anything. Thinking of this, I held my stomach and spoke in a frail, delicate voice. "Honey, my stomach hurts, and my head aches too. Last time, I made $2,000 from just a short live stream. Now my husband sees the little demon in my belly as a cash cow." The moment he heard this, he hurriedly pulled my mother-in-law to her feet. "Mom, let's talk outside. Ningning needs her rest. Pregnancy is exhausting." My mother-in-law was thrilled to have some alone time and happily followed my husband to the living room to reminisce. Over the next month, she would occasionally call him out to talk. She thought she was picking times that just happened to interrupt me, but little did she know, I had orchestrated every single one. Whenever my husband had to work overtime, meet with clients, or attend meetings, I would drop a few suggestive remarks during the day. In the dead of night, my mother-in-law would wake him up to listen to her love stories. Just listening wasn't enough, she'd started giving pop quizzes, like what year she met my father-in-law or when they got together. If he got it wrong, she'd burst into tears, lamenting how she'd lost her love and how even her son didn't care about her anymore. After a while, even the toughest person would crack under that kind of pressure. My husband made a mistake while negotiating the quote with the client, which led to his demotion from project lead to a regular team member. Even the year-end performance award slipped through his fingers. His impatience was growing more evident in his eyes, but my mother-in-law remained completely oblivious, still basking in the pride of having won her man. After yet another night of non-stop talking, my husband finally snapped, "Mom, if you can't sleep because you're getting older, find something to do on your own. I still have to go to work in the morning. Do you have to make a scene every single night? I'm so sick of this." My mother-in-law was the pampered princess of her family since childhood. She married my father-in-law right after college. He'd been chasing her for 3 years, and then had my husband, who turned out to be exceptionally obedient. Her life had always been smooth sailing. She'd never been yelled at before, so she burst into tears, flung the door open, and ran out screaming, "How dare you talk to me like that? You promised you'd always treat me like a princess. My husband snapped out of it and chased after her. Through the window, I watched as my mother-in-law, finally caught, burst into tears and threw herself into his arms. Honestly, if it weren't for the age gap, this could have been straight out of a soap opera. After we got home, my husband hesitantly brought it up. My mom's always slept with my dad by her side. Now that he's gone, she's scared to sleep alone. She's always been easily frightened. Her constant interruptions must be disturbing your rest. How about I sleep with my mom instead? Of course, I agreed understandingly. Not only did I agree, but I even brought it up myself during the live stream without any prompt from fans. No matter how old he gets, he'll always be my son. I'll always be there to sleep by his side. What's all this nonsense about gender boundaries? My husband still sleeps with his mother every single day. Don't you dare think dirty thoughts. The bond between mother and son is sacred. Completely ignoring the flood of OMG comments flooding the chat, she just kept showing off her mother-in-law's treasures: baby bowls, hair clips, quilts, you name it. I want to be as blissful as my mother-in-law someday, using baby exclusive everything. Clips from that live stream got reposted by all the big gossip accounts. The comments were all over the place, with plenty of people tracking down my mother-in-law's personal account to trash talk her. They even gave her a nickname, Shameless Granny Baby. That really set my mother-in-law off. She was sobbing and demanding that her husband get justice for her. Her husband had to suck it up and talk her down, saying, "Mom, she's so far along in her pregnancy, just let it go." In the 2 weeks leading up to my due date, I was being utterly unreasonable. If I felt cranky in the middle of the night, I'd wake him up to buy me roasted chestnuts, barbecue, and pig trotter soup. If he refused, I'd go live and cry. During the day, I made my husband carry me around the house. If he stopped, I'd complain about stomach pain. I snacked whenever I felt like it, munching on sunflower seeds and scattering the shells all over the floor, leaving him to clean up the mess. The money I earned from live streaming became the leash around his neck. No matter how unwilling he was, he still had to bend over backward for me. The look in his eyes grew colder by the day. He often slipped away to his study late at night. No one knew what he was up to. My mother-in-law watched me with barely concealed schadenfreude. Let's see how smug you'll be after giving birth. I knew perfectly well he'd settle the score with me after the baby was born, but I never expected him to move this fast. While I was struggling through excruciating labor in the delivery room, he and his mother were already waiting outside, clutching the divorce agreement I'd painstakingly drafted through sleepless nights. Drenched in sweat, I caught my husband shooting me a disgusted glance. "Let's get a divorce." "No, the baby is still so little. He can't grow up without his mother." I clenched my fists tightly, afraid I might burst out laughing. "Don't worry. My mother will take care of him." My mother-in-law lifted her chin triumphantly. "Ha, don't say we're treating you unfairly. We'll give you that old apartment as compensation, but the bank accounts and the baby belong to our family. Don't even think about taking them. That old house was my premarital property to begin with. If she refuses to hand it over, there's nothing I can do." But I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I put on a show and begged through fake tears. "I don't want the accounts. I just want my baby. I carried him for 9 months and went through hell to bring him into this world. I'm begging you, please don't take him away from me." I made sure everyone in the hospital heard every last bit of the gossip. Only then did I reluctantly agree to give up custody and proceed with the divorce. What goes around comes around. From this day forward, the rest of your lives will be filled with nothing but bitterness. On the day we got our divorce papers, Lee Jun stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The red brick walls looked exactly the same as they did on our wedding day. His gaze held a hint of hesitation. I quickly hailed a cab to the airport. "For heaven's sake, the divorce is final and the landmines are gone. I've got no time to keep up this charade with you." I blocked all contact with him in Wang Chanhong, then put the old house up for sale, moved to Lugu Lake and opened a guest house. Lee Jun named the child Li Chaoxiong, claiming it would prove Chaoxiong was superior to other children. Combined with his devoted single dad persona, this actually attracted quite a few new followers. We hired domestic help, moved into a 3-story villa, and even my mother-in-law's antics became a test of filial piety. This sparked countless elderly people across the internet to imitate the trend. Chaoxiong was still manageable back then, with large round eyes that sparkled when he smiled, and dimples as sweet as fermented rice wine. Their lives seemed to become more vibrant precisely because I was no longer in them. Everything took a turn for the worse after Chaoxiong started elementary school. "The streamer you follow is live now." I quickly scooped a bowl of plain rice and opened the stream. "We really can't accept your child here." The suited figure on screen had changed again. Probably some poor elementary school's unfortunate principal. I vaguely recall that when Li Chaoxiong first started elementary school, he'd slash classmates' backpacks with a compass and plant thumbtacks on their seats after arguments. Later he even set a girl's hair on fire and threw hot soup at a teacher's head. But every time the news broke, Lee Jun would quickly pay to have the posts taken down, so it never blew up into a major scandal, and he was able to keep attending school, that is, until Lee Jun bought him a kid's car. The other child's parents released a 3-minute video showing Li Chaoxing driving the toy car, laughing as he repeatedly ran over a 5-year-old. When the screaming child tried to crawl away onto the grass, he was dragged back and beaten. The child was covered in bruises and had blood at the corners of their mouth when brought to the hospital. This was no prank, it was blatant violence. In that moment, I felt a pang of regret. I had never seen a child so vicious. So I spent a fortune to make sure everyone saw the truth, that Li Chaoxing wasn't some sweetheart, but pure poison. Money talks. The Parent-Teacher Association at Li Chaoxing's school launched a petition demanding his expulsion. His past misdeeds were dragged into the light, too. After that, no one in the district would touch him, and even Li Jun's career took a hit. 2 weeks ago, Li Jun finally pulled some strings to get Li Chaoxing into an elementary school. But who would have thought another incident would happen so soon? I should send him to a professional institution sooner to see if there are any interventions, otherwise by the time he reaches middle school, because the meeting was being live-streamed, the principal phrased things very diplomatically. Li Jun maintained his image as the devoted father, continuously apologizing with red-rimmed eyes. Let me think about it again. It's heartbreaking to see such a young child having to take those medications. After 3 full days of being on leave, when the live stream resumed, the channel had been renamed to 365 Days Growing Up with Chaoxing. He actually quit his state-owned enterprise job and chose to go home to do full-time parenting live streams with Wang Chanhong. I don't know what Li Jun did, but Chaoxing has become much more obedient. He endured all of Wang Chuanhong's bossing around without complaint, showing none of the short temper or low intelligence that the legendary supermales are known for. I'm not old to begin with. What do you mean I look younger? Wang Chanhong is pushing 70, yet after getting a facelift she insists she's only in her 50s. It made me a bit nauseous, so I quickly took a sip of lemon water. Just then, Wang Chanhong put on a cutesy voice and said, "Baby's thirsty, wants some 35 degrees honey water." Everyone expected her son to step up, but instead, Chaoxing appeared on screen holding a baby bottle. Wang Chanhong pouted her lips while showing off her manicure to the live stream audience, as Chaoxing held up the bottle to feed her water. "These are crystal nails. Ouch, so hot, it's burning me to death." She spat out the water after just one sip, and Chaoxing looked at her in confusion. "Just like your useless mother, can't even handle giving the baby a drink properly. You're punished to mop up the water on the floor. And no drinking for you today." The baby bottle was practically crushed in Chaoxing's grip, yet Wang Chanhong kept ranting about how useless he was, claiming he'd never be tending to her if her husband were still alive. Without a word, Chaoxing turned and walked back to the kitchen, then returned carrying a basin of bubbling water and called out, "Granny, I've got a surprise for you." Wang Chanhong spun around just in time to get every last drop of the scalding water splashed right in her face. She thrashed around on the floor, screaming like a stuck pig, but that wasn't enough. Chaoxing ran to the kitchen, grabbed oil, and splashed it all over her. "Granny, if you die, you'll be reborn as a baby. Let me help you with that." His gleeful tone was as bright as the lighter in his hand, sending Wang Chanhong stumbling backward in panic until she missed her step, tumbling down 3 flights of stairs and cracking her head hard against the corner, falling silent in an instant. As Li Jun's roar echoed from downstairs, Chaoxing lowered his head and chuckled. "Isn't this right? Grandma always bathed me with water like this. Grandma wants to be the baby now, so I should help her out. Dad doesn't care about me, he only ever hits me." He was talking nonsense, his face streaked with tears. The chill that had seeped deep into my bones finally faded away. He had many flaws, but I was the last person who could judge him. When the stakes are high enough, people will abandon their principles. As the sports cars, yachts, and Ferris wheels rolled in, Li Jun tearfully forgave Chaoxing. Little did he know that the weight of that forgiveness would cost them their lives. "I'm sorry, Grandma." Wang Chanhong was rushed to the hospital in time and managed to survive. With enough money, even her face was restored to its original state. "Get away from me. Go away, Xiaojun. I'm scared. Woo-woo." Even though Chaoxing was pretending to be well-behaved, Wang Chanhong still acted like a startled cat, leaping out of her wheelchair and darting behind Li Jun. Netizens who were hoping to see them reconcile are not having it. "Chaoxing has already apologized. What more do you want?" If that shameless old man hadn't abused Chaoxing, would he have ever resorted to such extremes? There are only so many get-out-of-jail-free cards in this world, being young, old, or sick, in this regard. The suspected schizophrenic Chaoxing scored 2 points at once, a landslide victory. Li Jun pulled Wang Chanhong out from behind as he watched the out-of-control barrage. "Mom, you were just saying in the hospital how much you miss Chaoxing. Quick, give him a hug." His gaze felt both encouraging and threatening. Wang Chanhong kept looking back hesitantly but still had to follow Li Jun's orders. While I couldn't help but laugh watching from the other side of the screen, in my previous life, to make up for their loss of a grandson, I gave up my career and even sold my own house to support the family, yet neither of them ever appreciated me. But in this life, I seized the live streaming trend from the start, making money effortlessly. No matter how badly I behaved, they had to put up with it, until the replacement super masculine child was born, and they finally showed their true colors. I can't wait to see the look on Chaoxium's face when he finally realizes this. It's going to be priceless. Another 3 years passed, and with Lugu Lake's booming development, my homestay business has been raking in impressive profits. A huge stretch of prime lakeside property is all under my ownership now. Meanwhile, Lee Jun's live streaming career has undergone a dramatic transformation. What began as a picture-perfect father-son bond soon devolved into Chaoxium's twisted pranks. From pouring glue into her congee and stuffing dead cockroaches in her burgers, to jolting her awake with a hyper-realistic severed head in the dead of night, each time, Wang Chenhong would be reduced to a sobbing, screaming mess, begging Li Jun to save her. Little did she know, it was all happening because Li Jun was deliberately enabling the cruelty, as the audience's appetite for shock grew. So did the prank's viciousness, eventually escalating to Li Chao buying 2 live pythons for Wang Chaoxing to slip under Wang Chuanhong's covers while she slept. Wang Chenhong became Chaoxing's plaything, tormented by him repeatedly until the once spoiled, vicious mother-in-law was reduced to an ordinary old woman. Her eyes were timid and shifty, darting around nervously even while sitting. "Grandma, I've shelled some crayfish for you, come and eat." Chaoxing placed the shelled crayfish on the table in front of the camera, along with a glass of red wine. "No, I don't want to eat, the baby doesn't like it." Wang Chenhong instinctively took half a step back, but was quickly yanked back by the hulking Chaoxing. "Eat, or I'll get angry." No one knew what memory had flashed through her mind, but her eyes filled with terror as she frantically shoved lobster meat into her mouth without even using chopsticks. Washing it down with red wine before she could even swallow, the red oil mixing with the deep purple wine like ominous blood. Before she knew it, she had devoured every last morsel of food, and now her lips were covered in clusters of blisters. Chaoxiong, who had been in the live stream earlier, was nowhere to be seen. Wang Chuanhong's breathing grew rapid, her entire body flushed like a boiled shrimp. Only then did it dawn on her that she needed to get out. But the door refused to budge no matter how hard she tried. "Chaoxiong, open the door, I need to use the bathroom." Chaoxiong stood outside the door, his voice hoarse. "Grandma, I accidentally snapped the key. Haha, open the door quickly. I feel awful. How could I be feeling unwell? I clearly ground up Grandma's medicine and put it in the wine." "Medicine? What medicine?" "It's the cephalosporin on the table. I put a lot of pills in there." "Didn't Grandma say she had a cold? I specially prepared it for her." "I never said that. I never said that." No matter how much Wang Chenhong pleaded, Li Chaoxing remained completely silent. By the time Li Jun rushed home after receiving the call, an ambulance summoned by kind netizens was already waiting downstairs. They went upstairs together and opened the door to find Wang Chenhong with purplish lips and dilated pupils. Li Jun's hand trembled as he reached out, then collapsed to the floor. "Mom." Wang Chenhong always prided herself on being cute and cared deeply about her appearance, but the severe allergic reaction left her face covered in bloody scratches from relentless scratching. With skin torn and flesh exposed, she looked like a monstrous creature. The live-stream death captured the nation's attention. The topic of the super male chimera with innate antisocial personality resurfaced. Li Jun once again reaped the benefits of viral attention. "I was quite pleased. The more one gains, the harder the fall when it's all lost." Li Chaoxing was a minor with no formal education, so the police ruled out premeditation, but Li Jun still had him examined at a psychiatric hospital. According to Li Jun, Li Chaoxing committed crimes not because of an extra chromosome, but due to schizophrenia. He will remain in the psychiatric ward under supervision for an extended period until he is cured. But we all know deep down that's a lie. Whether he has schizophrenia or not doesn't change the fact that Li Chaoxing has evil in his genes and ice in his veins. His existence was born from my hatred. He will never change for the better. The live stream now featured Li Jun, but I couldn't stomach his hypocritical moralizing. I slipped away to the hospital where Li Chaoxing was staying. It's almost laughable, as his birth mother. This was the first time I'd ever truly laid eyes on him. He looked much thinner than he did on the live stream, with hollowed cheeks, but his stubborn eyes shone with an intense brightness. "Are you my mother?" "I am." I gripped my phone tightly, feeling a bit scared. He chuckled softly. "Don't worry, I'm in a straitjacket. Dad and Grandma said you ran off with someone, so why did you come back to see me?" My eyes welled up as I slowly began to recount everything that had happened over the years. "Right after I gave birth to you, your father wanted a divorce. All these years I've been watching your live streams. I wanted to reach out, but I was afraid your dad and Grandma would take it out on you. It's all my fault. I didn't have the means or the ability to do better. I've always felt I failed him, but it's not even a fraction of what I've shown." Li Chaoxing gave a casual nod. "Could you let me out? Then, I definitely will. If he doesn't leave, Li Jun will use all that money to start a new family and have a better son in no time. I wouldn't be able to sleep a wink then." Soon enough, I got in touch with Li Jun and sweet-talked the money-blinded fool into taking both me and Chaoxing back home. Under my careful guidance, Chaoxing became more sensible day by day. Even starting to sit quietly beside me and read. Li Jun was quite pleased with me, often buying me bags and clothes. Each time I received them, I'd squeal with delight like someone who'd never seen the finer things in life. Little did he know, I was secretly taking even more money behind his back, until the last sum vanished with the fund's collapse. The revenge that transcended time and space could finally move on to its next act. In return, I prepared an extravagant feast for our last supper. Li Jun happily gnawed on ribs, guzzled beer, and roared with laughter, completely oblivious. On our wedding anniversary, I suggested we go hiking. Chaoxing should get out and clear his head. It's been too long since our last date. Li Jun's gaze lingered on my face, just like it used to. In our past life, he'd look at me with that same intense affection, and I thought he'd finally forgiven me for the secret abortion. "You're not the Li Sichuan I used to know." That was all he said before shoving me off the cliff, leaving me no chance to argue. Branches tore at my face, rocks shattered my skull, and a thick branch impaled me through the chest, leaving me bleeding profusely. But I wasn't dead yet, clinging to life, desperately hoping someone would find me, praying Li Jun would regret what he'd done and come back to save me. I waited and waited, until the dark clouds parted and the first light of dawn broke through. Only to be plunged back into darkness. Still, no one called for me. Coming back to my senses, Li Jun asked me gently, "Isn't it exhausting to hike in high heels? Would you like to switch to sneakers? I can walk really fast even in heels, so you'd better keep up with me." We'd only been hiking uphill for just over an hour when I couldn't take it anymore and had to stop. "You and Chaoxing go on ahead. I'm just too exhausted." Li Jun made a move to carry me on his back. But I wasn't about to let him have his way. No way. I'm wearing a skirt. I'd totally flash everyone. He had no choice but to decline. Watching their retreating figures grow smaller, I turned and entered the lounge next door, bracing for the storm that was destined to come. After my rebirth, I changed many things, but the one thing I couldn't alter was the weather that fate had in store. In my past life, a torrential downpour struck on this very day, scattering the crowd and allowing Li Jun to slip away unnoticed. My cries for help went unheard amidst the chaos. I watched the dark, heavy clouds gathering on the horizon. With a crack of thunder, the rain arrived right on schedule. The curtain of rain blotted out everything in sight. Trembling with adrenaline, I was mistaken for being cold by a woman nearby, who insisted on draping her coat over my shoulders. "You young girls always prioritize looking good, no matter the situation. Who goes hiking dressed so lightly?" We started chatting intermittently, and strangely enough, we clicked instantly. For a moment, it made me think, if I had a mother, she'd probably be just like her, round-faced with dimples when she smiles. But how could that be? If my mother were still alive, she'd be in her 50s or 60s by now, not looking 32. The rain gradually lightened, and the trail was filled with people heading back down. I lifted my head and scanned each face one by one. But none of them was Li Jun, nor was there any sign of Li Chaoxing either. My heart sank as I returned the clothes to the elder sister and turned to head up the mountain. She grabbed my arm tightly, refusing to let me go. "Every action has its consequence. Those who defy causality must pay the price. You've paid your dues, and so have I. Now everything is back on track. Little one, it's time to descend the mountain." Yao. That's the childhood nickname I've never mentioned to anyone. Only my mother and father ever called me that. The hazy figure of that woman in my memory suddenly came into focus again. She had a round, gentle face with dimples that appeared when she smiled. "Mom, during my pregnancy, I kept having this recurring dream where a woman was impaled through the chest by a tree branch, left hanging midair." I whispered in my heart, "Save me, Mom. It hurts so much," she said. "Save me, Mom. It hurts so much." She said the exact same thing. At that moment I thought, this poor sweet girl is suffering too much. So I screamed in my dream, "Mom is coming to save you." But no matter how loud I shouted, she couldn't hear me. I was so frantic I started crying, but there was nothing I could do. I stopped having those dreams right before giving birth, and I thought it was all over. But on your 10th birthday, when you got that burned scar on your chest, it suddenly hit me. The one calling me mom was my dearest child, the one who broke my heart the most. Li Jun once told me the legend of this mountain. The legend says that whatever you willingly give up, you'll get something in return. Back then, I thought my rebirth happened because I had given up on survival. Only now do I realize that my mother willingly gave her life to bring about my rebirth. She reached up to wipe away my tears. "I'm sorry, my dear. Mom still failed to protect you." I could no longer hold back my overwhelming emotions, throwing myself into her arms and crying my heart out. "Mom. It hurts so much, it really hurts, Mom." When Li Jun cracked my head open, "It hurts so much, Mom." When Wang Chenhong tripped me and I tumbled down the stairs, the pain was unbearable, Mom. Childbirth was agony, and falling off that cliff was sheer torture, but nothing compared to the anguish of learning you died for me. My sobs melted into the pouring rain, and I wept until exhaustion pulled me into a heavy sleep in her arms. I didn't open my eyes until dawn broke and someone shouted that help had arrived. By then, my mother had vanished without a trace. The rescue team arrived swiftly, both stretchers already draped with white sheets. One of them stirred slightly. I rushed forward and grasped his hand. A faint smile touched Li Chaoxing's lips. "Mom, I'm here." Choked with emotion, I couldn't speak. He murmured softly, "Come closer." I quickly leaned in close, but he never finished his final words, his eyes wide open as he slipped into eternal darkness. After the police arrived and secured the scene, evidence suggested the two had argued. Li Chaoxing attacked Li Jun with a hiking pole, and during the struggle on the rain-slicked mountain path, Li Jun accidentally pulled them both over the cliff. They suspected me too, after all. Hiking in high heels in a dress is highly unusual. First, there was no concrete evidence against me. Second, multiple people in the lounge testified that I fell asleep immediately upon arrival. Third, Li Jun had already donated all his money to the Institute for Genetic Disease Research before his death, so I gained absolutely nothing from it. That's why they finally let me go, back at the guest house by Lugu Lake. It dawned on me that Li Chaoxiong, with his super male chimerism, was actually their karmic retribution all along. In my past life, I took the fall for them. That's why I died so tragically. My mother knew my fate since I was 10, and she traded her life for mine to set me on the right path in this lifetime. But whenever I think of my mother, I'm reminded of the unfinished words Li Chaoxing uttered with his dying breath. "Mom, I know, you never loved me. Today, you deliberately chose to go hiking. But it's okay. I don't care. I hate you. I'm dying. Or do I love you? I don't know either." Story 2, the vassal states and beast-focused tribute. Hearing they became fiercely loyal when tamed, father permitted my royal sister and I to each choose one as a guard. I picked the most docile-looking rabbit and doted on him excessively, but while playing obedient to my face, he secretly conspired with my sister to seize my military authority, leaving me torn apart by tigers with no corpse left whole. Little did I know, when I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day of choosing beastmen. Ignoring the damp, pleading-eyed rabbit, I smirked coldly. Beastmen are unruly, too prone to backfire, better to slaughter them all. Then suddenly, I could hear the beastman's inner thoughts. With my mighty frame and silky fur, surely she'll pick me. Ah, she's looking this way, must be dazzled by my magnificent physique. What excellent taste. Among all these orcs, none could stand against me. With her choosing me, she'll want for nothing, huh? That look in her eyes, could it be love? Humans may be fragile creatures, but for her, I'd make an exception. The white wolf held its head high, stealing glance after glance at me, its fur drenched in crimson. My lips twitched as my words came out in an awkward detour. Orcs are too unruly. I choose the white wolf. The white wolf suddenly tucked its head away. Grr, I'll make sure to serve her well tonight. 1. The moment I opened my eyes and took in the scene within the hall, dizziness overwhelmed me. It wasn't until father called out to me in a booming voice, pointing with haughty pride at the numerous iron cages filling the hall. "Alicia, Seraphina, these are the beastmen sent by the Taming Kingdom, pure-blooded, fierce warriors, each capable of taking on 100 foes. Once tamed, they become utterly devoted to their masters, perfect candidates for personal guards. Come, sisters, take your pick. Any catch your eye?" I snapped out of my daze. My gaze wandered instinctively across the hall before settling on a docile, well-behaved youth. His fair, delicate complexion stirred protective instincts. The boy froze when our eyes met. He sprang to his feet and rushed to the cage bars, gripping the iron rails with pleading, puppy-dog eyes. Will you choose me? In my past life, I did choose him, the rabbit-man Kale. 2. I am the Grand Princess of Dajin, commander of mighty armies. Clad in armor, I've campaigned across the realm, winning glorious victories for our empire. The Beastmaster Kingdom once dared to rebel, relying on their beast-taming arts until I crushed their defiance. I've witnessed berserk beastmen on the battlefield turn on their own masters, devouring them in mindless frenzy. That's why I don't believe in their so-called Orcish loyalty. I would never entrust my life to another's hands, yet unable to refuse my father's earnest paternal love, I chose the seemingly most docile and harmless Kale. He had a frail physique and a timid disposition. Even when I merely raised my voice slightly, he'd pout with a face full of hurt. "Master, you're so scary." I'm frightened, facing those teary, timid eyes of his. Even my stone-cold heart would melt. I never intended him to be a guard, obedient and sensible. He never caused trouble, so I kept him as a pet without hesitation. Whenever I'm upset, I'd hold him close and stroke his fur gently. He always had this calming effect on me. Over time, he became indispensable. I doted on him more and more, indulging his every whim, yet he betrayed me. He seized the moment when I was wounded and vulnerable, stole my military seal, conspired with Seraphina to divert all my guards, leaving me to be torn apart by her frenzied beastmen. Not even a whole corpse remained. The memory of being devoured alive sent shivers down my spine, unleashing an uncontrollable surge of murderous intent. Just as I was about to crush Kale's skull in my rage, a cold, haughty voice suddenly cut through the air. "She's terrifyingly strong. 3. Who's speaking? My imposing aura faltered as the killing intent instantly dissipated. Only then did I realize the beastmen had reverted to their true forms. Naturally attuned to violence and peril, they'd instinctively shifted into their most powerful bestial states when provoked by my bloodlust. They paced their cages with savage restlessness, occasionally howling at the sky while attempting to rend the bars with fangs, appearing more untamable than ever. All but one, Kale. He hadn't fully transformed into a rabbit, only his long ears showed as he huddled by the cage, staring at me with wide, glistening eyes. Master, I'm scared. I froze in surprise. Her gaze instantly took on a curious glint as she studied him. Suddenly, Seraphina's coquettish protest rang out beside them. Elder sister, His Majesty asked you to choose a beastkin. Not scare them into revealing their true forms, but have you made your choice, sister? This, rabbit perhaps? She looked utterly delighted, covering her mouth with a tinkling laugh, so delicate and docile, perfect for our elder sister indeed. Then I shall choose too, that tiger there, what a magnificent beast, she declared with such certainty, as if the matter were already settled. Kale was staring at me with an excited expression, but, when did I ever say I'd choose him? I smirked coldly, turned to face the Emperor, and bowed respectfully. Father, these orcs are unruly, their savage nature cannot be tamed, they'll turn on us eventually, we should execute them all to demonstrate the Empire's might. That's what I meant to say, but then that voice suddenly returned. Time to choose. Will she pick me? Wait, is that an orc speaking? I discreetly scanned the room and realized nobody else seemed to hear these words except me. With my majestic build and silky fur, surely she'll choose me. Ah, she's looking this way, must be captivated by my impressive physique. What excellent taste. Among all these orcs, none could rival Vance in battle. With me, she'll want for nothing. White Wolf. My searching gaze finally settled on the snow wolf in the corner, with head held high. It paced slowly in its cage like a monarch surveying its domain, regal in bearing and majestic in stature, yet its jaws remained shut, voiceless. Then what I heard was its thoughts. I'm a bit suspicious. Why is she looking at me like that? Could she be in love with me, wants to have my wolf pups? Humans may be fragile creatures, but with her, I wouldn't say no. The moment our eyes met, his snow-white fur flushed crimson. Having wolf pups, how embarrassing. My lips twitched involuntarily. Yet the words that left my mouth took an awkward turn. Beastmen are unruly. I choose the white wolf. The white wolf's ears perked up before it suddenly ducked its head. Knew it'd be me. What's next? The wedding night. Its fluffy tail started wagging furiously behind it. I'll make sure to pamper her properly tonight. I stumbled unsteadily, nearly face-planted right there. For, you're choosing him. How could you possibly choose him? Seraphina and Kale spoke in unison. Seraphina looked shocked. Sister, you can't be serious. Kale turned pale. No, impossible. You should have chosen me instead. You've always been proud and distrustful by nature, with your fear of orcs turning against you. How could you possibly pick the wolf? You should have chosen someone harmless like me. So he's reborn too. Harmless, you say. Is he just flattering himself or does he have some serious misconceptions? I smirked coldly. Father, this rabbit is disloyal and disobedient. It's useless to keep it, better feed it to my wolves. The Emperor looked troubled. These are all high-ranking beastfolk, rare in number and immensely valuable. The white wolf released from its cage by the guards harbored no such reservations. It immediately bared its fangs and roared at Kale. Terrified, Kale shrank into a gray-furred rabbit with crimson eyes, cowering at the center of the cage. The wolf couldn't reach him, left to pace circles around the enclosure. A damn female rabbit dares to steal prey from this wolf lord. Got a death wish? Female. Is Kale actually cross-dressing as male? Seeing my suspicion, Kale's gray fur literally turned black with rage. He shakily rose to his feet, slapping his belly with both front paws as if declaring, I'm male. The white wolf's expression grew even more disdainful. So puny, what's the difference from a female? As he spoke, he deliberately shook his leg and strutted in circles to flaunt his extraordinary presence. With just a glance, Kale froze in place before silently collapsing to the ground, looking utterly devastated, clearly hit hard. The other beastfolk who peeked this way either stared at the sky or pretended to sleep, unanimously averting their eyes in silence. Even the tiger freshly led to Seraphina's side subtly clenched its legs tighter. I couldn't help but chuckle. Turns out whether human or beast, males just can't help comparing themselves in this regard. The white wolf looked ridiculously smug. Strutting over to me, he rubbed his big furry head against me like an overgrown puppy. See, none of them measure up to me. My gaze involuntarily drifted over. Saw that. Truly one of a kind. A rare gift from heaven. I suddenly flushed crimson. I tried to sneak my gaze away, but the white wolf caught me red-handed. The massive wolf's head loomed dangerously close. its eyes brimming with mischief and triumph. My cheeks burned fiercely. I turned my head away with visible discomfort. "How dare you behave like this in broad daylight? Have you no shame?" The white wolf couldn't comprehend such complex words, yet remained acutely sensitive to emotional cues. He tilted his head at me, eyes brimming with confusion. "Does she not like it? Me? Why the hell would I be into a wolf's junk? I chose a bodyguard, not a mate." The white wolf lowered its gaze, visibly crestfallen, yet perked up almost instantly. "No worries, familiarity breeds affection. Me? No. Why's this damn wolf always got his mind in the gutter?" 5. Burning with shame, I glared at the white wolf. To others, it appeared as utter contempt toward him. After all, no one else could hear his inner voice but me. They only caught those 2 remarks of mine, and their minds began to wander. Seraphina signaled the tiger to crouch, mounted its back, and circled around me. "Sister, are you truly choosing this wolf? His manners are crude, more like a wild beast than a civilized beastman. Having him as your personal guard would tarnish your dignity." The flush faded from my cheeks as I watched her with a knowing smirk. "Oh, then which one do you think I should choose?" Seraphina straightened her back and patted the tiger beneath her. "A tiger like mine would suit you well, fierce yet obedient. But elder sister is different from me. With her peerless martial skills and command of the Imperial Guards, she hardly needs such additions. If I may suggest, dear sister, why not choose someone sweet and agreeable? They'd make delightful company during your leisure hours." After all that talk, she finally revealed her true intentions. Scanning the entire hall, the only beastfolk docile enough to be kept as a pet was Kale. Her relentless recommendation only confirmed my suspicion. Kale had been her agent from the very beginning. But these orcs were just delivered. They've had no prior contact. That leaves only one possibility. My blood runs cold, yet I can't deny the truth. Seraphina and the Beastmaster Kingdom must be colluding. What about Kale? I gazed at him with inscrutable eyes. Just who is this master he'd betray me to follow? 6. Kale mistook my hesitation for agreement. He pulled himself together and swiftly took human form. Propping himself up with trembling hands, he gazed at me with pitiful eyes. "They're all so scary. I'm frightened. Could you take me away?" His utterly helpless, fragile demeanor was remarkably effective at stirring protective instincts. I initially saw it as a joke, but then a sudden tenderness welled up in my heart. The murderous intent I'd felt moments ago inexplicably melted into pity. I knew something was wrong, yet couldn't suppress the overwhelming urge to say yes, just as my heart burned with turmoil. The white wolf abruptly stepped between us, seizing the chance to catch my breath. I stepped back as instructed, yet I saw clearly how the white wolf's movements turned sluggish the moment it faced Kale. Kale was panting heavily, his eyes blazing with crimson light. "Get lost. You want me to leave? Who the hell do you think you are?" The white wolf's fur bristled as it threw back its head and let out a thunderous roar. The roar seemed to have devastating effects on the orcs. Kale was the first to fall, collapsing instantly as blood trickled from the corners of his lips and eyes. Seraphina followed suit when the tiger beneath her faltered, sending her tumbling to the ground. The other beastmen further away recoiled in retreat, their spirits visibly broken, and so the white wolf stood amidst the stunned gazes of all present. Step by step, I approached Kale and looked down at him with cold dominance. "She's already chosen me, yet you still dare try to bewitch her into changing her mind. Do you think I'm dead, or do you truly believe I wouldn't devour you?" "Bewitch? Since when did Kale possess such abilities? In my past life, I chose him willingly. He never revealed his true nature, yet someone inherently distrustful placed such faith in him. Looking back, that does seem rather unusual. Could his subtle influence over me have played a part in this?" As I pondered, the white wolf rested its razor-sharp claws upon the iron chains. Before my eyes, the chains shattered link by link. The hall's atmosphere instantly became charged with tension. The guards swiftly drew their weapons and assumed defensive positions. Just as the situation reached its breaking point, my father gently patted my shoulder. "Alicia, make him stand down immediately. Beastfolk are precious. Your father intends to gift one to each of your siblings. We can't afford to lose any here." His words made it clear the Emperor wouldn't tolerate further harm to the beastfolk today. I immediately restrained the white wolf. Kale gasped for breath, his face deathly pale after the narrow escape. Those bloodshot eyes fixed on me burned with sheer resentment. But what exactly was he resentful about? That he failed to kill me one more time? With a cold smirk, I leaned closer and whispered, "Kale, don't even dream about it. I'd never choose you again." Kale froze, his eyes widening in shock. "You?" Paying no heed to his reaction, I turned to leave with the white wolf. Then I saw Seraphina gritting her teeth as she kicked the tiger beside her. Useless, caught red-handed, she swiftly masked her resentment with a crimson smirk. "Elder sister, your wolf is truly formidable. Even this mountain's sovereign pales in comparison." Though framed as praise, I detected gnashed teeth beneath her words. Staring at the tiger's forehead marked with king, contemplation dawned upon me. Stroking my white wolf's sleek fur, I chuckled lightly, perhaps, like master, like beast. Seraphina's smile froze mid-curve, watching the undisguised envy in her eyes. I lowered my gaze with a cold smirk. That's all it takes to break you. Pathetic. 7. I remained on high alert. After all, this white wolf is frighteningly powerful. If I remember correctly, in his past life he was deemed too weak to be chosen by anyone, and ended up being given to the 13th Prince Nico. Nico's birth mother was a low-ranking palace maid doing laundry work, who accidentally caught the emperor's favor and bore a prince. Unfavored by the emperor, the mother and son lived in a remote, neglected palace quarter, often bullied by other maids and eunuchs. I helped him when we were children, and he would always sweetly call me sister whenever we met. Later, when I followed my grandfather to the frontier and could no longer protect him, I left him a sword manual for self-defense. Seems he never practiced it, otherwise he wouldn't have been framed and nearly killed. I remember White Wolf killed someone to save him, earning a death sentence, but Nico secretly let him escape and took 30 lashes for it. Their bond of entrusting their lives to each other truly moved me. What's more, being able to hear White Wolf's inner thoughts eliminated any fear of betrayal. That's why I went along with his choice. But that doesn't mean I can trust him. Especially considering how he deliberately concealed his true strength in our past life. Who knows what he's after? I shot him a sidelong glance and feigned praise. For a fellow beastman, you're certainly more impressive than the rest. The white wolf flicked his tail with obvious smugness. Naturally, as a born beastman, I'm inherently the king of all creatures. A born beastman. Are there actually orcs who aren't born that way? Remembering how the orcs sent during the war with Beast Tamer Kingdom behaved like mindless killing beasts, I felt like I'd grasped something important. Just as I was about to press for details, I heard the white wolf exhale slightly in relief. That was too close for comfort. Good thing I reacted fast, or that damn rabbit would have snatched her away. As expected, only the strongest can claim a mate. But I'm already plenty big, why doesn't she like me? Could it still not be enough? TSK. Petite frame, sky-high standards, looks like I'll have to keep working harder, but I wonder if she can handle it. Me, where's your strength? Did you eat all your strength or what? 8. A suspicious blush spread across the white wolf's face. The more I looked, the creepier it seemed, so I kicked out in disgust. The white wolf instinctively lunged forward, failing to notice a palace maid rounding the corner. I urgently called him off, but still startled the poor girl. Considering the distance back to my chambers, I ordered the white wolf to take human form. I hadn't seen his face inside the hall, but this first glimpse took my breath away. His bright eyes and elegant brows moved with the grace of a soaring dragon, yet those deep sapphire eyes and silver hair felt hauntingly familiar. My heart skipped a beat, struck by sheer disbelief. Vance, puzzled but cautious. Vance drew closer and nuzzled his head affectionately against my shoulder. Woof. A wave of dizziness washed over me. In his past life, Kale suddenly collapsed. I posted notices everywhere seeking renowned physicians, only to learn his heart was failing from excessive worry. The master physician said his heart condition had grown so severe it clouded his mind, and bade me find spirit-clearing herb as the primary remedy. The spirit-clearing herb grew atop snow-capped peaks. To retrieve it, I risked scaling a towering mountain, yet at the summit, I encountered Vance. He stood atop the cliff, facing the howling wind. His figure was elegant, with piercing eyes and sharp features. The sight of his silver hair dancing in the wind made my heart skip a beat. I parted my lips, wanting to ask who he was. He darted toward me like lightning, trying to snatch the herbs from my back. In that case, we'll settle this with our fists first. He seemed injured, his movements sluggish and uncoordinated. In the end, I emerged victorious. He pressed his lips together without a word. Preparing to drag his gravely wounded body away, I stopped him and handed over one stalk of the spirit-soothing herb. He froze momentarily, disbelief flashing across his face. For me, the deep, husky voice sent a warm tingle through my ears. I nodded awkwardly. He took it with flustered hesitation, cheeks flushed and lashes fluttering. This is a life-saving favor. His pale, handsome face suddenly flushed crimson as he leaned in nervously to sniff me. I am Vance. Wait for me. I'll come back for you. All right then, I'll be waiting, I replied with a smile, but I broke that promise. On my way back to the capital with medicinal herbs, I was ambushed and wounded by a group of orcs. Upon returning, I was betrayed by Kale and met a gruesome end. Thus our promise from the past life remained unfulfilled. So now he's come searching for me in this lifetime. I felt a lump in my throat, but then I saw Vance guiltily turn his head away. Sniff, Alicia smells so good. Asterisk, I really want to secretly mark her. She wouldn't notice, right? Asterisk, me. He lifted his head stealthily, baring sharp fangs to nuzzle against the nape of my neck. It tickled, and left a sticky sensation. I shuddered violently and flung him away. 9. After returning to the bedchamber, I arranged supper and accommodations for Vance. He thoroughly enjoyed the evening meal, but the lodging arrangements left him quite displeased. "This is too distant. A personal guard should stay close at hand," he spoke with righteous indignation. Had I not overheard his sneaky plan to crawl into bed, I might have actually fallen for his nonsense, but I did hear it, so I promptly shut the door in his face. "Back to your room, good night." I thought he was a mature orc who'd leave quietly when I kept ignoring the door, yet even past midnight. His intrusive thoughts kept creeping into my mind. Alicia must be asleep by now. If I sneak in through the window, she'll never notice. Silently, I got up and latched the window tight. The window won't budge. Maybe I should try entering through the roof. I spaced out for a moment. How could anyone secure such a vast rooftop? No, it's going to rain tonight. If I damage the roof, Alicia will get soaked. She'd be furious. I need to make a good impression. Can't let her think I'm uncouth again. I really miss seeing her so much. Oh, I tossed and turned in bed. He kept muttering outside the door. I knew I wouldn't get any sleep unless I let him in, so I opened the door and yanked him inside. Then I tossed a blanket onto the floor by the bed for him. I snapped, "Go to sleep, and don't get any ideas." Vance gave a faint, obedient nod. Sleep tight. I'll keep watch." He's literally the last person who should be giving reassurance. Turn into a wolf and sleep. Obediently shifting into his wolf form, he curled up on the floor right beside the bed, but unexpectedly, the nagging voice stopped. In its place came the rhythmic pounding of a heartbeat, now light, now heavy, now fast, now slow, so damn loud. I grumbled, yanking the covers over my head. In my drowsy state, I felt uncomfortably warm. When I opened my eyes, I was shocked to find myself curled up in Vance's arms. He had shifted back to human form, pressing against me so intimately that my face immediately flushed crimson. I tried to wriggle free, but he only groaned softly, rolling over to pin me beneath him with unconscious movements. The breathing by my ear grew increasingly ragged. His lips and tongue trailed across my face, sending shivers down my spine. "Vance, don't." I tried to stop him, but my voice came out hoarse and thick. He froze for a moment. His eyes glazed over as he stared at me. This reaction seemed purely instinctive. Is this mating season? There's no stopping it. But he hurt me, gritting my teeth. I chopped the back of his neck with a knife hand strike. 10. In the following days, I was swamped with official duties by day and locked in battles of wits with Vance by night. I closely observed his behavior, just like a wolf in heat, but as far as I know, wolves typically go into rut between December and February. How come he's still in heat at the end of March? Sensing something was off, I decided to take him out of the palace to see the renowned healer Isolde. Little did I expect to run into Seraphina in the Imperial Gardens. She was training the tiger by hanging large chunks of raw meat high up in a tree. "Zane, climb up there and the meat's yours." But tigers can climb trees. The one Seraphina chose was slender and towering with smooth bark. Zane's muscular frame found no foothold. After several failed attempts, he grew increasingly frustrated. Seraphina scowled, cracking her whip impatiently. "Useless. Can't you shapeshift and climb up there?" At this remark, I arched an eyebrow. The other day when my kite got stuck in the tree, I was about to retrieve it myself when Vance insisted on doing it for me. Wolves can't climb trees, but werewolves can. With just a few agile leaps, he retrieved the kite and came bounding back to show off his prize. I suppose Seraphina must have seen it. That sounds just like her. We were twin sisters, both born to the Empress, and had been constantly compared since childhood. After our mother's passing, she was raised by the Empress Dowager, while I was sent to live with my grandfather who had lost his only daughter. She mastered the arts, excelling in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and song. I trained in martial arts, proficient in swordsmanship, archery, horsemanship, and every form of combat. Busybodies often whisper in my ear, "Your sister excels in everything while you only know how to wield weapons. Aren't you afraid of being overshadowed?" "I fear no comparison. We're family, and our strengths belong to the same house." Yet Seraphina seems threatened, her hostility toward me growing fiercer, especially after I returned to the capital, battle-hardened and decorated with honors from years of campaigning alongside my grandfather. I know why. Before my return, she was the sole heir to the throne, but since I came back, her legendary brilliance faded into obscurity. Now everyone praises my heroic deeds, saying I embody our founding ancestors' legacy. She believes I stole what was rightfully hers. She resents me and refuses to be beneath me, so she's determined to outdo me at every turn. Even the orcs, she's hellbent on forging them into the mightiest warriors, yet she fails to grasp that extremes beget their opposites. Lashed by the whip, Zane's pain shattered his restraint. His feral roar erupted at Seraphina. Seraphina flinched in fright, then flushed with humiliated rage. "How dare you raise your voice at me?" She was chasing after Zane to scold him when she spotted me preparing to leave with Vance. Seraphina froze momentarily, smoothed her appearance, then forced a smile as she stepped into my path. "Where are you heading, elder sister?" I couldn't possibly tell her the truth, so I made an excuse about Vance feeling cooped up in the palace and needing some fresh air. Seraphina wasn't buying it. He's just a beast, man. Why would you dote on him so, sister? After all, he's the sworn guardian of my life. Of course I'd dote on him. Serafina's face flushed alternately pale and crimson. Are you implying I've been too harsh on Zane, sister? But I cut off her explanation. How could I? That's your orc. I wouldn't presume to take over your duties. The pointed sarcasm froze Serafina in her tracks. After walking some distance, Vance suddenly leaned in close to me. Alicia, I'll protect you, but how do you plan to spoil me? Since when do wolves negotiate terms? I gave him a sidelong glance with a faint, ambiguous smile. It's a surprise. You'll find out soon enough. 11. This is the surprise. Vance's eyes went wide, knees trembling. I couldn't help but chuckle and nodded with exaggerated seriousness. Vance's face went pale as his brows knitted tightly together. It must be because I went too far last night. Alicia probably couldn't take it anymore and brought me here. If only I'd known to tone it down earlier. Last night he climbed into bed and pinned me down until I was weak all over. I haven't even had the chance to settle the score with him yet. But how can he control his heat cycles so effortlessly? I feel utterly deceived. Seems I've spoiled him too much, letting him grow this audacious. With a cold smirk, I held him over and dumped him right in front of Isolde. Duck, Isolde, be a dear and take a look at him. Isolde froze mid-castration, rope in one hand and blade in the other, staring at me like I'd lost my mind. I only gelled pigs, not people. Everyone else at the pig farm was busy, and seeing no one was paying attention, I spoke up frankly. He's an orc. Could you please take a look at him, Dr. Isolde? Isolde's eyes lit up instantly. She dropped what she was holding and reached up to touch Vance. Vance refused, taking a step back, pinned against me with nowhere to retreat. With no other choice, Vance could only endure Isolde's fussing with a stony expression. Isolde performed pulse diagnosis while examining his eyes and tongue coating with professional precision. Truth be told, she was quite the extraordinary character. Her father was a butcher, her mother raised pigs, while she received several years of schooling. After becoming literate, she studied medical texts extensively and took charge of castrating and treating pigs, with remarkably low mortality rates among their livestock. Word spread of her skills. Soon villagers sought her expertise for poultry, dogs, and rabbits, gradually earning her the reputation as a legendary animal healer. Some mistook her for a human physician and came seeking treatment. Through these encounters, she unexpectedly mastered the art of diagnosing people. Now tending to beastfolk patients, she's truly come full circle in her calling. After fumbling for a while, Isolde reached up to pull down Vance's pants. Startled, Vance desperately grabbed his belt and looked to me for help. He was no longer the white wolf who'd shamelessly show off in public. He'd learned human decency, so I stopped Isolde and asked if she'd reached any conclusions. Isolde blushed as she realized her boldness. Murmuring an explanation, his heart fire burns too fiercely. With churning chi and blood, this causes emotional instability and heightened desires. I merely wish to confirm these symptoms. No offense was intended. Suddenly, I recalled her diagnosis of Kale in our past life. Excessive worry leads to heart failure and emotional instability. None of them could properly control their emotions. With the manic Zane added to the mix, I sensed something was amiss. In her past life, Isolde only identified the root cause after examining Kale's blood. With that thought, I drew the dagger I always carried and prepared to make a small cut on Vance's palm to draw blood. Vance was utterly shocked. No way. Is Alicia actually going to castrate me? Isolde also misunderstood my intentions and kept trying to stop me. Miss, I understand you might be tempted to neuter him out of sheer frustration, but we can't just go straight for the snip. There are proper procedures to follow. I found myself torn between laughter and exasperation as I clarified I merely wanted her to run a blood test. Isolde's expression cleared with sudden understanding. Such divine beauty would be wasted through castration indeed. Targeted hormonal suppression via blood work makes far more sense. Ensures a harmonious life. I quite agree. I wiped my face and sighed. Whatever, let her be. Vance was visibly moved, his gaze softening noticeably. Oh whoa. I knew it. Alicia loves me too much to ever neuter me. Since when did I ever love him? What on earth is he fantasizing about day after day? Fuming with rage, I told Isolde to skin his brain while she's at it. Just kidding. To everyone's surprise, the investigation actually uncovered issues. 12. Though Vance's symptoms were much milder, they shared the same origin as Kale's condition. Both were poisoned. I suspect they're not isolated cases. I brought Isolde into the palace to have her examine the other beastfolk, but the beastfolk had been distributed by my father, some to princes and princesses, others to nobles and dignitaries, so I had to track them down one by one. My first stop was Nico's place. Though clearly delighted to see me, he put on a stern face and greeted me with sarcastic remarks. Sister, you've been back in the capital for ages. Finally remembered to visit me. Truth be told, I do feel rather guilty. I'd promised to protect him when we were children, yet I left for 10 long years. Even after returning, I was so busy training the Imperial Guards that I never visited him, but since he insists on being tsundere about it, I won't indulge him. I ruffled his hair with a mischievous grin. I came to see you. Nico's lips curled slightly as he gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. The beast man. Nico's smirk vanished instantly as he shot me an annoyed glare, swatting my hand away. Get lost. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Isolde couldn't suppress her laughter either. Nico's face darkened with humiliation as he glared at Isolde. Think this is funny? Isolde blinked. Hilarious. You look like a puppy. Did you just call me a dog? Nico growled through clenched teeth. No. Just like a puppy begging its owner for treats. Isolde waved her hands in explanation. Nico wouldn't listen. Insisting Isolde clarify he wasn't a dog, Isolde snapped, pulling a dagger from her boot and pressing it against Nico's waist. One more word and I'll neuter you. Nico froze instantly, not daring to move a muscle. I was startled too. Never imagined Isolde would dare bring a blade into the palace. As I reached to disarm her, Cale came barreling in and knocked me clean off my feet. He held me tight, his face brimming with nostalgia. Master, have you come to take me away? I've missed you so much. Before the words even hit the ground, Vance had already grabbed him by the scruff and flung him out. Looking to die, Cale fled. Vance pursued. The two went sprinting out of the side hall. I brushed off my clothes in disgust, only to find Nico standing there with arms crossed, watching me with amused detachment. He calls you master. That rabbit's no innocent creature. He's cunning as they come. Don't let his fragile appearance and pitiful act fool you, sis. That kind will chew you up and spit you out without a second thought. My face grew warm at the memory. Hadn't I been utterly devoured by him in my past life? Nico frowned when I didn't argue back. That rabbit can manipulate minds. The very night he arrived, he tried to make me take him to you. Though I stood firm and thwarted him, he clearly has designs on you. Mark my words, sis, he'll make another move. Touched by his concern, I gave his shoulder a gentle pat. Got it, sis, message received. But you, after all these years apart, still talking to me in that same old tone. Isolde stifled a giggle behind her hand. So it's not a puppy after all, but a little wolf cub protecting its master. Nico glared and demanded why Isolde had hidden a blade in her shoe. Isolde's eyes flickered meaningfully toward Nico's crotch. Neutering time. So you were just trying to, me, he stammered for ages, face flushed crimson, yet never managed to say that word. Isolde nodded with an amused smile. Even gesturing with her hand, Nico froze momentarily before forcing an awkward yet polite smile. He scurried behind me with quick little steps, trying to use me as a human shield. Our game of cat and mouse was in full swing when the shadow guard abruptly appeared. My liege, Vance encountered Zane while chasing Cale in the Imperial Garden. Now all three are brawling. 13. By the time we arrived, both Vance and Zane had shifted into beast forms, locked in combat. Zane had one ear bitten off and part of his tail severed. Vance's body was covered in claw marks, his once snow-white fur now stained crimson, a pitiful sight to behold. As he dodged and weaved, Vance caught sight of me. He paused momentarily before launching into an even fiercer assault. Alicia's here. I'll show her my strength. That's how I'll make sure she always chooses me. Vance whirled around, his razor-sharp teeth sinking in and tearing a chunk of flesh from Zane's back in an instant. Yet Zane seemed impervious to pain, growing even more frenzied as he twisted to snap at Vance's leg. Vance could have dodged it, but in that split second, his movement faltered, just enough for Zane to land a clean bite. Damn it, if not for that cursed rabbit, this tiger wouldn't have laid a finger on me. Only then did I realize Cale, standing nearby, had been manipulating the battle all along. His eyes gleamed crimson. Clear evidence he was wielding his hypnotic abilities. If this keeps up, Vance is going to get hurt. Burning with anxiety, I asked Nico beside me if she could restrain Cale. Nico looked surprised. Sis, are you worried about Vance getting hurt? He's only been with you for a few months, yet you're already this protective of him. He's an orc. Different breeds can never share the same creed. Nico's tone carried that particular frustration of watching wasted potential. Vance was once someone he'd trust with his life in their past incarnation. Why this hostility now? Puzzled, I muttered evasively, enough talk, can you handle this or not? If not, I'm stepping in. Nico frowned and grabbed my arm to stop me. You can't risk your life like this, I've got it under control. When I sensed Cale trying to manipulate me, I fed him a lethal poison. If he disobeys, he'll die. With that, he shouted, Cale, get back here. But Cale seemed to ignore him, remaining completely still. But Seraphina, watching from nearby, overheard everything. She flicked her whip impatiently. Just some orcs fooling around. Was that really worth stopping? Isolde whispered. That tiger's not right. No pain, no fatigue. If this continues, the white wolf won't last. Nico's brow furrowed as she shouted, Cale. Cale could no longer play dead, slowly turning his head, yet his crimson eyes remained unrelenting, their gaze sending waves of dizziness through those who met them, and Zane, it seemed, was also affected. His entire body shuddered before he suddenly howled at the sky. Violently breaking free from Vance's grasp and charging towards Seraphina, Zane moved with lightning speed. Before Seraphina could react, Zane had already knocked her to the ground. Zane, what the hell are you doing? My pupils contracted as I realized something was wrong. I tried to rush forward to stop him, but it was too late. With Seraphina's horrified gaze locked on him, Zane sank his teeth into her throat in one vicious bite. Blood sprayed violently. It gushed out in thick pulses. Zane licked his lips, visibly aroused by the metallic tang of blood. Her eyes glowed an unnatural crimson as she lowered her head to devour Seraphina. Seraphina wasn't quite dead yet, her head lolled weakly to the side, lips trembling soundlessly, but I saw it, her voiceless plea, "Sister, save me." After Mother's passing, the towering palace walls severed the bond between us. This was the first time in all these years she called me sister, when I met my end in the tiger's jaws in my past life. I truly despised her. Whatever she desired, she could have told me. We're blood sisters born of the same mother. No two souls in this world share a closer bond. But now she's gone, died right before my eyes. All that hatred with nowhere to go. What came flooding back was her tear-streaked face as a child, whispering, "Sister, we've lost our mother. I have no mother now. No, my sister is gone too." My hand hung limply at my side. Fingers clenched into a white-knuckled fist. I bit my lip, snatched the dagger from Isolde's grasp, and lunged forward, slashing Zane's throat in one swift motion. Zane collapsed heavily to the ground, his mouth still working in a grotesque, reflexive chewing motion. He's completely lost control, stripped of humanity, reduced to pure animal instinct, staring at Seraphina's lifeless, unblinking eyes. It suddenly dawned on me, in our past life, did Zane also lose control like this? Seraphina is dead, killed by the fangs of those supposedly absolutely loyal beastmen. 14. The Emperor, heartbroken and blaming himself, entrusted all affairs to my sole discretion. I ordered the recall of all orcs, assigning Vance to accompany Isolde for individual inspections. Nico tagged along as well. Thus I went alone to the celestial prison. Kale's locked up there. I want to ask him what really happened between him and Seraphina in our past lives, hearing my purpose. Kale looked somewhat disappointed. Alicia, knowing you've also been reborn, knowing I betrayed you in our past life, yet still daring to hope for your forgiveness, to follow you again, am I being utterly presumptuous? But I truly miss those days we spent together, but I don't miss it. Just thinking about the genuine affection I once treasured, now tainted by his selfish schemes, makes me sick to my stomach. I have no interest in hearing his so-called confessions either. The damage is done, and there's no undoing it, so I cut him off mid-sentence and repeated my question in a low, firm voice. "Tell me about your deal with Seraphina." Kale froze, his eyes brimming with bitterness. "It's not my deal with Seraphina, it's the Beast Tamer Kingdom's arrangement with her." He revealed that the Beast Kingdom sent these elite beastmen as part of a secret deal struck with Seraphina. In exchange, the Beast Kingdom would help Seraphina ascend as crown princess and secure her position. Seraphina promised to provide the kingdom with coveted resources and grant them independence once she took the throne. As for Kale's sudden collapse in his past life, it was the backlash from his refusal to continue taking the medication. He knew I'd save him, but never imagined the Beastmaster Kingdom would exploit this against me. After I retrieved the spirit herb and fell unconscious from injuries, he received orders to steal the tiger tally for Seraphina and withdraw all guards. Kale said so much, yet withheld the very thing I needed to know. He's deliberately keeping secrets. Why? Puzzled, I heard Kale let out a complicated sigh, his eyes shimmering with unreadable emotions. "Alicia, you should actually be thanking me. You appear strong and merciless to enemies, yet your heart is tender. You'd bare your soul even to a lowly beast folk like me. How much more for your own blood sister? I know you could never bring yourself to kill Seraphina for revenge, but if you don't kill her, she'll kill you. So I took matters into my own hands first. Consider it settling your past life vendetta for you." He said it with such righteous conviction, as if murdering Seraphina to avenge me was some grand favor. But did I ever ask for his help? And he's the real culprit behind all this. Rage boiling inside me, I sneered. "Then shouldn't you be the first to off yourself?" Kale's face darkened, his usually fragile, innocent demeanor suddenly turning sinister. Moments later, he lowered his lashes and let out an ambiguous chuckle. "Not now." I didn't catch that, but he'd already clammed up, no matter how I pressed him. He refused to say another word, then he went full possum. Curling up motionless in the corner like a dead thing, I was tempted to beat the truth out of him, to turn his act into the real deal. Just then, the Shadow Guard suddenly appeared, reporting that the renowned healer Isolde had returned with urgent news. I had no choice but to instruct the jailer to keep a close watch on Kale before hastily departing. Isolde revealed traces of drugs in every orc system. These substances alter the orc's emotions and cognition, turning them into mindless killing machines. To break the curse, we'd need an exceptionally rare medicinal herb. I immediately ordered my Shadow Guard to bring forth the spirit-clearing herb. When I reincarnated on the day of orc selection, I foresaw the herb's importance. Drawing from past life memories, I mapped its location with danger zones and precautions, then dispatched Shadow Guards to retrieve it. Isolde looked startled but asked no questions, immediately beginning to prepare the herb. Vance stared at the spirit herb with a puzzled expression. This herb scent, why does it feel so familiar? My heart skipped a beat as my throat tightened. Have you seen it before? I held my breath instinctively, only to see Vance shake his head after a moment's contemplation. Haven't seen it before, but it smells wonderful, just as lovely as your scent, yet the herb was clearly odorless, which piqued my curiosity. What does it smell like to you? Vance froze, his lashes fluttering faintly as a blush crept up his ears. It's the kind of scent that makes your mouth water and tempts you to take a bite. I shouldn't have asked that damn question. Isolde quickly brewed the antidote, and I initially planned to test it on Kale first. 15. Little did I know he'd already fled. That sly fox dug straight through the dungeon walls. Talk about an escape artist. Seeing my livid expression, Isolde reassured me. No need for human trials. I've already tested it with the blood of that frenzied tiger. Nico shot back defiantly. Kale may have escaped, but he won't last long, a month at most. Without my antidote, his guts will rot from within. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief and began reorganizing the troops. If the Beastmaster Kingdom dares scheme behind our backs, I'll wipe them off the map, to minimize casualties. I sent Vance ahead with this batch of beast men and the antidote. They can shapeshift into beasts for stealth, easily gaining beastmen's trust to turn them against their own. I'll make the Beast Tamer Kingdom rise and fall by the beastmen's hands. Before departure, Vance grew pensive and unusually talkative. Alicia, I told you before, I was born a beastman. Natural-born beastfolk are rare creatures shaped by nature's essence. Due to their reclusive nature, most dwell in remote mountains, untouched by worldly affairs. The Beast Tamer Kingdom discovered our existence by chance and began systematically capturing us. They conducted cruel experiments to mass-produce inferior beastfolk, bolstering their military might. I infiltrated their kingdom to rescue my kin, but fell under the influence of mind-altering drugs. Forced to conceal my true power, I escaped by blending into a tribute caravan sent to Dujin. I'd long wondered when salvation would come, never imagined it'd arrive so soon. Alicia, thank you. I've rarely seen Vance like this, shedding his usual reckless arrogance. He spoke with solemn composure like a battle-hardened leader. No, not just like one. He is the Wolf King, the undisputed ruler of the grasslands. Him becoming my guard was just a coincidence. Once everything's settled, he'll probably leave, won't he? For some reason, the thought of that possibility left a faint ache in my chest. Vance lowered his eyes with a soft chuckle, then suddenly buried his face in the crook of my neck. Nuzzling gently, Alicia, wait for me. I froze. He suddenly leaned in and kissed me, his fingers tangled in my hair, holding me firmly as he nipped at my lower lip, coaxing my mouth open with primal hunger. I was forced to tremble and sync with him. This feeling was utterly foreign to me. Long after he'd left, I remained rooted to the spot, dazed and unable to snap out of it. Nico shot me a glance and let out a heavy, disapproving sigh. My sister's grown up and won't stay forever. My mind went blank with a buzzing sound. My cheeks burned fiercely when I realized how intimately I'd been acting with Vance in public. Instinctively patting my flushed face, I scrambled to explain. Nico had already run off to find Isolde. Can humans and beastfolk interbreed? Are there any side effects? Nico's questions drifted on the wind. I held my breath and pricked up my ears, but heard nothing at all. Turning around, I realized those two hadn't waited for me. They'd vanished without a trace. After mustering the troops, I led them straight into battle against the Beastmaster Kingdom. 16. Vance led the charge, persuading the orcs to defect. The oppressed orcs barely resisted. We captured city after city without losing a single soldier, but when we stormed the last stronghold, Tiger Keep, I spotted Kale among the prisoners. Vance dragged him into the command tent and threw him at my feet. This operation went so smoothly largely thanks to that rabbit. Without his mind-bending abilities, the casualty count would have been much higher. Vance held nothing back, recounting Kale's actions in meticulous detail. My gaze toward Kale instantly grew more conflicted. He was at his breaking point, skin festering, body crisscrossed with bloody gashes, yet he stubbornly lifted his head to look at me. Trembling as he reached out to touch me, I watched coldly, remaining utterly unmoved. A flicker of sorrow passed through Kale's eyes before his head dropped weakly. Alicia, you have no idea how much I love you. I refuse to be just a pet by your side. I want to stay with you forever, but I was bound by the Beast Tamer Kingdom and Seraphina, powerless to resist. They devised a foolproof plan to kill you, to save you. I struck a deal with Seraphina. I helped her obtain the Tiger Sigil to withdraw all guards so she could spare your life and take you away. Yet I never expected Zane to lose control, and ultimately cause your death. This was all my fault. My regret is endless, but heaven took pity and granted me a second chance. Now they're all dead. No one can harm you anymore. But I'm dying too. Alicia, won't you truly forgive me? Kale stared at me stubbornly, pleading for my forgiveness. But why on earth should I forgive him, regardless of his intentions? He's the one who left me to be devoured alive. He could have told me about the Beast Kingdom's conspiracy. If I crushed their first rebellion, I could have handled a second, but he didn't. He chose to work with Seraphina out of selfish motives. He sought to clip my wings and keep me captive by his side. His so-called love was selfish, self-serving, never for my own good. He claims remorse and seeks redemption. Yet in this life he's again taken matters into his own hands and caused Seraphina's death, my own blood sister. Did he ever consider my feelings? Therefore, I refuse. Love's name alone cannot undo the harm inflicted. I turned away, unable to bear another glance at Kale. I couldn't see Kale's expression, only heard the sound of liquid dripping onto the floor, blood perhaps, or maybe tears. After a long silence, Kale murmured softly, "Master, I'm leaving now." Silence fell. I stood there for a long time. I couldn't quite name the emotions swirling inside me. A bittersweet mix of melancholy and relief, when I remained motionless. Vance had someone remove Kale's body, instructing them to give him a proper burial. I gave him a sidelong glance. "See this? This is the fate of those who betray me. One act of disloyalty, and you're out for good. If you wish to remain by my side, let this be your warning." Surprise flickered in Vance's eyes. "So even he thinks I'm heartless." Her fair, delicate complexion stirred protective instincts. I stood frozen in place. I knew I was special. I've got no clue what happened between Alicia and Kale, but I'm not that dumb bunny. How could I ever betray someone and lose them like that? We werewolves are fiercely loyal. When we choose someone, it's for life. He suddenly lunged at me, pinning me to the ground as he loomed over me. What should we do next? Should we take our clothes off now? Damn it. What kind of lousy outfit is this? Why is it so hard to undo? With a forceful tug from him, my golden armor shattered instantly. I was completely stunned. Didn't he take the antidote already? Why is his mind still full of dirty thoughts? Didn't we already fix your heat cycle issue? Clutching my clothes, I flustered slightly. Vance trailed light kisses along my neck, his throat vibrating with a low chuckle. "Because this isn't heat, just my instinct to love you." I tried to speak, but his lips silenced me, swallowing my words. Only muffled whimpers remained. Each sound dissolved into the wind. The end.